Are we killing him? Other than the spiciness of the soup base, its unique scent also made Mag raise his brows. The 30% difference in taste gave the spicy hot pot a sort of deliciousness in another direction. It was a surprising and delectable taste. The different groups of spices were blended perfectly together. They did not cover the main spicy taste, and instead added more layers to it. Mag picked up a long piece of duck intestine, and submerged it in the pot. He dipped it in several times, and the duck intestine started to curl up. After that, he dipped it in his sauce, and put it in his mouth. The temperature was well controlled, and that made the crispiness of the duck intestine perfect. The fragrant and spicy red soup got rid of the smell of the duck intestine. At the same time, it also gave the duck intestine a marvelous taste. Its crispiness gave Mag such a wonderful chewing experience he almost started chewing on his tongue. The half a ladle of pig's brain had been cooking for a while in the pot. Mag bit on the edge of the ladle, and blew on it before sucking the entire thing into his mouth. The appropriate level of spiciness triggered the taste buds first before the pig's brain disintegrated in his mouth. Its texture was soft and fine, similar to tofu pudding, but the pig's brain was thicker and stickier. The fragrance and deliciousness bloomed at the tip of Mag's tongue, forming an interesting contrast with the spiciness. It was a very unique enjoyment. The enoki mushrooms and sliced lotus root were put into the pot. Mag used the sharing chopsticks to pick up sliced beef, and looked at Rena, who was standing nervously at the side. With a smile, he said, "Don't just watch, sit and eat with me." "Oh." Rena was stunned for a while before she sat in front of Mag, and started dipping the ingredients in the pot. The hot and spicy hot pot dispelled the chilliness of the winter. It was a moment of scrumptiousness as the red soup base boiled. Mag used a piece of tissue paper to wipe away the perspiration on his forehead and the oil at the corner of his mouth as he smiled with satisfaction. He looked at Rena, and said, "When the renovation is completed and you hire employees, you can open straight away. If you can keep up this standard for the soup base and ingredients, the business won't be bad with the price slightly lower than Mamie restaurant." The red soup base passed as well. Rena looked at Mag in surprise, but she was still trying very hard to control her emotions. "Yes. Your adaptation has been very successful. Even the tiny flaws aren't able to stop it from shining brightly. This is an entirely new hot pot soup base, and its taste is unique but still delicious," Mag said seriously with a nod. Rena's talent in understanding spices shocked Mag once again. He had to admit that even he could not find such suitable replacements within such a short period of time and ascertain the proper amount of each spice for the soup base. "Thank you." Rena finally smiled widely. Her endless hours of hard work had finally paid off. Mag's recognition was more important than anyone else's because he was the creator of Hot Pot, so no one had more say than he did. "As for hiring, you might want to consider Elves. Ferris probably has a lot of unemployed tribesmen. Most of them are rather talented. If they could be put in positions suitable for them, you could reduce the number of manpower while increasing work efficiency," Mag suggested. As the factory at the city's northern area had yet to be completed, there were still around 20,000 unemployed night elves there. Many of them were 6th tier and 7th tier magic casters. A 5th tier water-type magic caster's spell could complete the work of more than 10 old cleaners, and do an even better job. With fewer employees, the costs of running the hot pot restaurant would decrease. At the same time, they would not run into chaotic situations of having a lot of staff moving around. "Hire elves as service staff." Rena's eyes lit up. However, she was quickly worried. Would the noble elves be willing to work as service staff in a hot pot restaurant? Would she have to pay them a lot? "You can ask Ferris. Maybe hiring elves as employees isn't as expensive and difficult as you think," Mag said with a smile. "All right." Rena nodded. She did feel that she was overly worried and overthinking before she even found out more. "I should get going. Although I'm already full, I still have to prepare lunch for the rest, and get ready for lunch hours." Mag glanced at his watch. It was almost 11 a.m. He stood up and walked towards the stairs while saying, "I'll do the bone soup for today. You carry on with what you have to do for the restaurant. It's okay to come a little later too." "Okay, then I'll have to trouble you," Rena said as Mag left. "You might want to experiment on the spicy hot pot for that little flaw," Mag said without turning back. "Flaw?" Rena looked at the red soup base in front of her that had already reduced by half. She picked up a ladle, scooped up some soup, and brought it to her nose. She closed her eyes and took a serious sniff. She frowned. "Is there something extra or something missing? Why isn't Rena here yet today?" Mia asked after arriving and looking around while Mag was making lunch for them. She'd already eaten. "I was at her shop just now, trying out her newly developed hot pot. The taste was very unique, and both of us have already eaten our fill," Mag said with a smile. "Rena is so capable. Is she already done with the hot pot soup base? Does that mean that the hot pot restaurant will be open soon?" Mia exclaimed in shock. The others also looked at Mag curiously. The new hot pot restaurant was very big, much bigger than Mamie restaurant, and that was something to anticipate. "Yes. Now all that's left is the renovation and hiring." Mag nodded. Even the most time-consuming and energy-consuming part, the renovation, was coming to an end. "That's so exciting. I hope Rena's hot pot restaurant can show all those cheap hot pot restaurants with poor food quality what it means to be a real cheap hot pot restaurant," Mia said expectantly. "It would be no problem trashing them," Mag commented silently to himself. He was actually quite excited about the new hot pot restaurant too. It was a huge shop that could accommodate 1,000 people. Even if each person spent only 100 copper coins on average, the shop could easily earn 200,000 a day in revenue. This shop was a hen that could lay golden eggs. "Clear up the table and get ready for lunch," Mag told everyone as he closed the fire, and plated the red braised pork into a clay pot. After lunch, Irina called Mag upstairs. The moment she closed the door, she went straight to the point. "Sean is coming to Chaos City. He's arriving today. Are we killing him?" "No, I heard that Sean is leading the Roth Empire's representative team on their visit to Chaos City." Irina shook her head. "If that's the case, I'm afraid it wouldn't be appropriate to just get rid of him," Mag said solemnly. "Now that the Night Elves have already settled down in Chaos City, and we've also come to a consensus with Chaos City, we belong to Chaos City. Therefore, we have to consider things from Chaos City's point of view before we take any action. Are you no longer that worry-free loner?" Irina frowned. Sean was also involved in that attack on that rainy night. If he hadn't been in the military all this while, she would have long wanted to claim his life. Mag looked at Irina. He knew why she wanted to kill Sean. If he had a chance, he wouldn't mind sending that seemingly righteous first prince to his deathbed. Mag gently said, "Yet. No one dared to touch the elves in the past, but right now, the night elves are like refugees floating around in a boat with no one to rely on, and the wind forest is just waiting for our boat to sink. If we leave Chaos City now, we will be in a position with a lot of difficulties to face. We will make those darn fellows pay the price." "All right." Irina nodded slightly. She did not refute Mag's words. "Oh, right. Rena's hot pot restaurant is almost ready, and she needs to hire employees now. I've recommended the Night Elves to her." Mag changed the topic to something more light-hearted. "I can satisfy her even if she needs 20,000 Night Elves." Irina's lips curled up. Mag thought for a while before saying, she'd need about 10 in the kitchen and around 20 service staff members. However, they must all be magic casters with a skill. After all, the restaurant was a huge area that could hold more than 1,000 people, and was even split into different levels, including private rooms and the main hall. There was a need to allocate service staff to different areas to handle complicated dining situations. I'll tell the captain later. The standard of the Night Elves F&B department is quite low, so I am thinking of using the hot pot restaurant as a training ground for them. I'll send a batch of them over in some time to improve their overall standards, Irina said without thinking. If it's for training, I'm afraid the Night Elves would not only have too much on their plate, but they might also even get too heaty just from eating hot pot. Mag raised his brow. However, he did not question Irina's decisions. At least the hiring issue for the new hot pot restaurant was settled. He had found a batch of even more reliable and capable workers for Rena. Michael said he wanted to see me, and asked you to come along. Do you want to go with me this afternoon? Irina suddenly asked Mag. I've already met him and Roland this morning. I think the two of them had already guessed my identity, but they're just not saying it. There are certain things that could be better said with a different identity. Mag shook his head. He had already decided to hide his identity as Alex, while Michael and Roland had chosen not to probe. However, they could delve a lot deeper into the issue of the evil god with Alex's identity. Then I'll take a nap first. We'll leave after you're done. Irina stretched lazily. All right. Go take a rest. Mag nodded with a smile and left the room. Those customers who did not get their rum in the morning returned in the afternoon. However, they restrained themselves more. After learning that they could not take away the drinks from Mamie restaurant or buy them a la carte, they did not appear with their wine bottles anymore. The ice magic caster in the morning did scare quite a few of them. Old Sim's rum. Get me 2 glasses first. Do you have any recommended dishes to go with the drinks here? Husband and wife lung slice? Get me one of that, even though the name sounds strange. What is this beer? Get me a glass of that as well. Hey, bro. You're here too? Here, let's sit together and see if this rum is authentic. The drinkers quickly took up a few tables, and most of them were familiar faces in the circle. They usually would not come out to drink during the day, but the 2 words Old Sim were too tempting and irresistible. Brothers, I am also a regular at Mamie restaurant. Let me just remind you that drinking here isn't like drinking at other places. You have to abide by the rules. Otherwise, even a 10th tier magic caster would be chased out, Karu reminded them. After having the rum at Mamie restaurant yesterday, he was a little tipsy and got dragged for seconds. In the end, he let out the news that Mamie restaurant was selling Old Sim hand-brewed 15-year-old rum by accident. Are you sure? Does this shop do illegal things? A skinny man asked softly. Exactly, drinking is a relaxing activity. If we had to abide by a bunch of rules, it would be so boring, another person at the side grumbled. No. This is a restaurant that even the city lord would visit occasionally. Karu shook his head. He flipped the menu over to another page, and said, actually, the rules of Mamie restaurant aren't difficult to follow. We just need to respect each other and the staff working here. Just that. It's just being gentlemanly. Everyone picked up the menu at their table, and looked at the rules listed at the back. No making loud noises, no picking on the service staff. It does seem like it, but it's very difficult to speak softly after drinking. A balding man scratched his head awkwardly. Hee, isn't this just about drinking and not boasting? As long as the rum is good, we don't care about that, said another person with a smile. Spicy grilled fish, husband and wife lung slice, steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers, spicy crayfish, kebab, and other dishes were served one after another together with the rum and beer that they had ordered. The drinkers, who were initially still unable to adapt to the rules, quickly immersed themselves in the joy of good food and wine. They had completely forgotten about boasting. The spicy and refreshing dishes went very well with the alcohol. Everyone took a bite after another, and had no time at all to talk about anything else. The rum was also a pleasant surprise to all of them. Such rich and sweet rum was difficult to find in Chaos City. Those who had had Old Sim's rum before were even more elated, for they could be 100% sure that this rum was made by Old Sim, and it was even better than the 3-year-old brew that they'd had before. This owner is such a saint. It's a 15-year-old rum, and made personally by Old Master Sim. He's actually only selling a glass for 1,000 copper coins? This is so touching, a tipsy customer said while wiping his tears. Ding! Good person card +1. A notification sounded in Mag's head. Successfully collected 7 good person cards. You may summon a mysterious dark cuisine recipe. Do you wish to proceed with the exchange? Chapter 1603 Can Pig's Eyes Be Roasted Too? What era are you living in? Do I still have to explain the term dark cuisine? The system sounded a little annoyed. No, Mag rolled his eyes. He didn't think that there would be a day when he would actually be mocked by the system. Of course he knew what dark cuisine was. It was just that the whole 7 good person cards in exchange for a dark cuisine recipe gave him a shock. Dark cuisine has always been a slippery slope in the world of delicacies. It is also very mysterious, and might differ from area to area. However, that did not affect it from taking a special spot in the world of delicacies, and making people shudder from the sight of it. The system continued expectantly. And your current mission reward is to pick a recipe from the dark cuisine reserve. Can I refuse? Mag asked with a frown. He didn't want to add things like stargazy pie or surströmming to his menu. No hat, so what if you said no? Even if I accept it, I can always leave it out of the menu. Mag pouted. Host, you are challenging my authority. I am giving you a stern warning right now. All right, I'll give you a $5 tip. Go aside and keep quiet. All right. The system became respectful and disappeared immediately. Chowhounds of the alternate world, let's see what kind of dark cuisine I'll pick for all of you. A mysterious giant wheel appeared in Mag's head. Mag rubbed his hands together, and clicked start. The giant wheel started spinning wildly. Mag could make out some of the names of the dishes on the wheel: deep-fried cicadidi, fermented soya bean milk, stargazy pie, roasted moth, surströmming. Just seeing the names of these dishes alone made Mag shudder. These dark cuisine recipes are really extreme. Ding! Congratulations! You've chosen the special dark cuisine recipe, roasted pig's eyes. Roasted pig's eyes are a specialty of Guangxi province. It took a spot in the world of dark cuisine with its wild cooking and eating method. It even skewered its way to become an internet sensation. The system's voice sounded. Roasted pig's eyes. Mag looked at the 3 glittery words on the giant wheel, and thought for a long time. Can pig's eyes be roasted too? What do you mean by skewered its way? This is a new favorite of the world of dark cuisine. If it's just skewering a stick of pig's eyes on a stick and putting it on a grill, that would not be dark cuisine anymore. That's horror cuisine. Mag looked at the golden experience bag in his head. It was the first time he felt repelled by a recipe. It felt as though he would be assailed by something very bloody and disgusting after he clicked it open. All right. I'll just take it as I didn't get this reward. Mag was already about to leave. Wait a moment, the system said. Before Mag could even react, the golden experience bag that was suspended in front of him suddenly rushed towards him, and crashed into his head. In an instant, Mag saw stars everywhere. Information swarmed into his brain, from cleaning and seasoning the bloody pig's eyes to skewering the staring eyes, hearing the eyes sizzle on a grill, and seeing the moment the pig's eyes squirted when bitten into. Every scene was a shock to Mag. Although the information could not be compared to the complicated dishes he learned in the past, the bloody and shocking scenes caused Mag to take a very long while before he could recover from the shock. System, F***CKU. Mag could not help but curse. He was caught off guard when the bloody scenes were thrown into his head. According to the system's principles, once the host receives a reward, he has to claim it. It's not something I could control, the system said innocently. Still, F***CKU. Mag rolled his eyes. As an adventurous foodie in his past life, Mag had tried food like stargazy pie and deep-fried sikadidi. To him, those dark cuisine recipes were still in acceptable range. If he found a place selling good deep-fried sikadidi, he would even sit by the roadside stall, and have a few rounds of drinks. However, roasted pig's eyes were of a higher tier than deep-fried sikadidi. It tested the chef's courage when dealing with the big bucket of pig's eyes and the customer's courage when putting the piping hot roasted pig eye into their mouth, and feeling the liquid squirt out when they bite into it. After watching all those scenes, Mag felt that the great old one seemed, not much of a big deal. If pigs could grow so many eyes, wouldn't they be the perfect supply for pig's eyes? Mag was reminded of the stone statue that had numerous eyes on its tentacles in the stone box. The system has yet to discover a wild great old one. Taking the numerous eyes genes and using it to modify that of a wild boar to increase productivity is something worth considering, the system agreed. Forget it. Mag pressed his lips together. He couldn't be bothered with the system anymore. After he had claimed the experience bag and been through that process, his fear for eyeballs was basically gone. Even the trypophobia that he had had for years was cured. Ding! The host has picked the special dark cuisine recipe, roasted pig's eyes, and triggered a hidden mission. Please make the roasted pig's eyes gain some fame in Chaos City within a week. The goal: sell 3,000 skewers of roasted pig's eyes. Mission reward: 1 set of super fusion recipe. Punishment for failing the mission: eat 10 pig's eyes sashimi. Just as Mag was about to leave, the system's voice sounded again. Hey! Mag froze instantly. Wait, what is pig's eyes sashimi? Can pig's eyes be made into sashimi too? Mag felt like tearing that system apart right now. He had heard of pig's intestine sashimi, but was the pig's eyes sashimi something real? Would the liquid in the eye squirt out the moment it was cut open? Please complete the mission on time, the system said calmly. Also, what is that super fusion recipe? Mag asked, putting the pig's eyes sashimi aside for a while. Because of the limited ingredients, the foodies on Earth could only produce food made from whatever ingredients that were available on Earth. In Norland continent, we have better ingredients. After organizing the experience of all the chefs, the system had fused and recreated the ingredients on the Norland continent to produce a batch of super fusion recipes, the system replied. It sounds like the dark cuisine. Mag frowned. Nonsense. As a god of cookery cultivation system, no other system is more professional than I am in this aspect, the system said seriously. Haha. Mag started focusing on his work to cope with the busy hours as he tossed the roasted pig's eyes and pig's eyes sashimi to the back of his mind for a while. Boss, what were you thinking of that made you so distracted? Mia looked at Mag curiously. Mag had always been very serious and focused when cooking. He had never been distracted while cooking fried rice before. Serve the food. I got too carried away thinking about something, Mag replied with a smile as he plated the fried rice. Mia nodded as she served the dishes to the customer with a smile. Grandpa should have come earlier if he had known that selling alcohol in Chaos City is so profitable, Hannah muttered as she placed her head on the counter, and watched the drinkers drink the rum that cost 1,000 copper coins per glass. All these years, she had been brewing wine for the chief and nobles at the Fok tribe without earning much. Her years of savings were gone after making just a few brewing machines. However, at Chaos City, a small pint of beer could fetch 1,000 copper coins. That barrel of 15-year-old rum could fill more than 1,200 pints, and that meant that she could earn 1,220,000 copper coins. After calculating the costs seriously, Hannah suddenly regretted selling the rum to the new chief at a low price. The wine cellar had hundreds of barrels of old wine. There were even tens of barrels of wine even older than 15 years. If she could bring all of them to Chaos City. But she actually sold all of them for 500,000 copper coins. No, I have to continue drawing now so that my brewing machine can be made. That way, after another 15 years, I can lie on countless wine barrels. Hannah jumped up from her seat and ran upstairs, closing herself in the study as she continued drawing. The process of turning a messy and rough draft of a brewing machine into a concise design with specific measurements required many repeated processes of confirmation and calculation. Thankfully, other than teaching her how to draw, Mag also taught her how decimals and calculators worked. After the busy hours, Mag watched the drunk customers board their horse-drawn carriages, and then went up to check on Hannah, who was rushing out her design in the study. Compared to yesterday, when she could not even hold a pencil and draw a straight line, Hannah appeared like a professional today. She had already redrawn her draft, and the orthographic projection of the different parts was presented on a piece of paper accurately. Mag did consider getting Hannah a professional designing computer to let her learn CAD and Pro/E. However, he dismissed the idea ultimately after considering the current industrial level of this world. Anyway, the system might not be able to procure the computer. The scientists of the past also came up with the atomic bomb with paper and a pen, so a brewing machine without many technical aspects wouldn't require so much of a hassle. After taking a glance at Hannah, Mag closed the door quietly and walked away. It was obvious that Hannah was much more professional when it came to brewing alcohol. He might have a more efficient plan, but when it came to wine, the profit came from its unique and strong flavor, not the quantity. An ordinary rum could only sell for 10 copper coins per glass, but Old Sims could fetch 1,000 copper coins for a glass. This showed the value of branding. Mag changed, put his face-altering mask on, and took his Tiandu sword before leaving the restaurant for the city lord's castle with Irina. "Alex, long time no see." Michael looked at Mag, and reached his right hand out. "Sir Michael." Mag only nodded slightly, and did not shake his hand. "Our dragon slayer hasn't changed at all." Michael retracted his hand with a smile without showing any displeasure. Mag glanced at Michael. This city lord might appear rough and boorish, but he was a pretty good actor. "All right, let's talk about the black fog and evil god," Irina interrupted their hypocritical moment. "All right. This concerns the Norland continent's future. We should have a proper discussion," Michael said solemnly. Everyone sat down at the round table in the secret chamber, and the atmosphere started turning tense. "The first person I met who was engulfed by the black fog, or should I say controlled by the devil, was Borg. After he was controlled, his power increased significantly. Maybe that was the reason he sold his soul to the devil. Moreover, during that period of time, the evil aura attempted to engulf the tree of life, and that was a huge threat to the latter. However, it was finally stopped by a certain force. And during the fight at the goblins' borders, I used the holy light to get rid of the black fog on Borg and killed him. It proved that the holy light has a significant restrictive effect on the black fog," Irina said. "So Borg was controlled by the devil, and even tried to engulf the tree of life." Michael and Roland were shocked. They had not received any information about this. "If the devil uses power as a bait, I'm afraid there won't be many who can withstand such a temptation," Roland said seriously. Mag added, "At the Boundless Sea Realm, we discovered an island covered in black fog, and Alfred was on the island, accepting powers from the devil. There, we found an eerie stone statue. I was pulled into a strange realm spiritually after meeting eyes with it. It was a gigantic stone temple, and at the other end of the stone temple was a skeleton man sitting on a throne. The first thing he said was, 'Young man, do you desire power?' The atmosphere in the secret chamber became even tenser. Power was something every race was after in this world. If there weren't any changes to the current world where the powerful called the shots, there would probably be no one who would reject such strong powers. I shattered the stone statue and dispelled the black fog with the holy light as well. Normal magic would have no effect on the black fog," Irina supplemented. "If the black fog can only be dispelled by the holy light, that is not good news," Roland said with a frown. Light-type magic casters are few to begin with, and there are even fewer who could master the holy light. If the black fog starts consuming the world, there might not be anything we can do to get rid of it. We have to find the source of the black fog quickly, and get rid of it or find a better alternative for clearing the black fog. If we're just going to sit and watch, the situation will only get worse. Those fellows can live eternally, but we don't have so much time, Mag said solemnly. Luckily, we still have a lead. Ferdinand is still in our hands. Irina sounded more relaxed. Chapter 1605 I'm not going if it's insanely spicy. Although Chaos City did not belong to a particular race, it was still part of the Norland continent, and it would not be able to survive on its own in a scenario like this. Mag and Irina did not object to the alliance, either. They knew that it was impossible to stop the evilness from spreading and growing with their efforts alone. Having Chaos City as an ally would give them substantial support. Don't we have to hand Ferdinand over to them? Irina asked Mag after they came out from the city lord's castle. I'm worried that an uncontrollable accident may occur. I think it's better if he's in our hands before the peace talks. Mag shook his head. Although Ferdinand was unconscious, the black fog on him wasn't completely gone, so it would not be appropriate to hand him over to someone else. Irina nodded slightly. After a while, she looked at Mag, and asked, where do you think those fellows are hiding? Maybe instead of hiding, they're sealed in some place, or even various places. It might be at the bottom of the boundless sea or within a mountain somewhere. If they were not sealed up, this world would probably be in chaos already. Mag shook his head. If they're sealed up, does that mean that gods and deities do exist in this world? Can you feel the existence of the god of life? Mag asked Irina curiously. Irina thought for a while, and said, I think she exists, but her connection with the tree of life isn't very strong. I can only faintly sense a certain mysterious force existing above the tree of life. We can't be certain that those so-called gods or deities could live through the passage of time just like the great old ones, but if they do exist, perhaps they can sense that those fellows can't lay still, and might patch up the seal or something. Then maybe the problem would be solved, Mag said with a smile. That would probably be the most optimistic case. Patch up. It means to fill up the holes in the seal. Oh. Say, do you think it's Alex who's wearing the mask, or Boss Mag who's wearing the mask? Michael asked Roland with a smile. Roland thought for a while, and said, he is Alex, who is also Boss Mag. I think he actually doesn't hate the identity of a restaurant owner, and is in fact loving it, Michael said with a smile. That's exactly why he could hide away from others. If he didn't come to us, we might not even have realized that he had already assumed the identity of a restaurant owner. Yet, who would have thought that Alex, the dragon slayer who wielded a sword, could actually make such delicious food? Even if anyone had been a teeny bit suspicious, they would have forgotten all about it after tasting the food that he made, Michael said with a nod. Will they take action against Sean? Roland was worried. Once Alex was with Irina, even if Sean had 2 great magic casters and 2 10th-tier knights with him, it would not guarantee his safety. Don't worry, they won't do it, Michael said without any worry at all. What? Big brother Sean is coming to Chaos City. Vanessa looked at Abraham in surprise. She had been in Chaos City for more than a month, and although she was happy with having hot pot and skewers every day, she still missed her family. It was naturally fabulous to be able to meet Big Brother Sean in Chaos City. Yes. Sean is leading the team to visit Chaos City. Abraham nodded. He looked at Vanessa with mixed feelings, and continued, and after the visit, he will bring you home along with him. Bring me home. Vanessa's smile froze all of a sudden. She was stunned for a while before her face fell as she asked Abraham, who said that I was going back. Abraham tried to be as gentle as possible. He said, look, you've already been out for more than a month. His and Her Majesties miss you very much, so they want Sean to bring you back. It will save them from worrying too much as well. No. I do miss them, but once I go back, I won't be able to have hot pot, skewers, soybean milk and yoshao. Besides, my teeth haven't healed completely yet. I want to stay by Boss Mag so that he can continue treating my teeth. I'm not going anywhere. I want to eat hot pot. Vanessa shook her head hard, and tears had already started welling up in her eyes as she looked at Abraham with puppy dog eyes. Ayo, my dear girl, this is not something that I can decide. Your royal father wanted me to send you back last month, but I dragged a month out for you. Now, Sean is already on the way. What else can I do? Abraham shrugged and looked at Vanessa helplessly. Vanessa thought for a while, and said, in that case, can I come back out after I return? That'll depend on His Majesty. Abraham did not give her a definite answer, but based on the letter he received from the king yesterday, Vanessa probably wouldn't have a chance to come to Chaos City again anytime soon after going back this time. The reason she could successfully leave the last time was that the king permitted it. Humph. I don't look forward to meeting Big Brother Sean anymore now. Vanessa let out an angry huff. After a while, she looked at Abraham with a smile, and said, Uncle Abraham, let's have hot pot tonight. Mild spicy. Abraham tried to sound her out. Hee hee. It doesn't matter. We can always decide again at the restaurant, Vanessa said with a smile. I'm not going if it's insanely spicy. Abraham could already feel his *s constrict. It could no longer afford to be wrecked again. Your Highness, Chaos City is straight ahead, a general reminded Sean as a giant golden eagle glided by the sky. They say that only this city can be compared to Rodu. It seems like that's quite true. Sean looked at the city ahead. The city walls were tall, and there were countless houses inside. This city appeared to be a big city with a population of more than 1 million. It was indeed on par with Rodu. It's just a city. The Roth Empire has acres of land other than Rodu. It's not something a city that's made of different peoples could be compared to, one of the generals mocked. Everyone on the eagle's back laughed. Chaos City was nothing in front of the mighty Roth Empire. All right. Don't say things like this anymore once we reach Chaos City, Sean said solemnly. He squinted at the city in the distance, and wondered if he would meet that person on this trip. Chapter 1606 Grey Temple Investigation. Sir Dominic, he's been arrested. Jonah said with a tremble in his voice. Smash! The China article in Bowen's hands fell on the ground and shattered into pieces. What did you say? Bowen bolted right up and raised his voice a little. When I went to the Department of Property Rights, I happened to see Dominic being brought away by the people from the Grey Temple with handcuffs on. I quickly went back to the tea house, and saw that it was sealed up once again by the Grey Temple. The people and service staff that we've sent over were all arrested by the Grey Temple. Jonah looked at Bowen worriedly. Father, did we really touch something that we shouldn't have this time? Oh no. Bowen fell into his seat helplessly. His face was pale, and beads of perspiration formed on his forehead. The Marquis family had been running their business in Chaos City for years, and Sir Dominic was considered one of their family's closest VIP associates in the City Lord's castle. They'd worked together closely for years for their own respective needs. Now that Dominic was arrested, and the tea house was sealed up by the Grey Temple, there was no way he would not link this case to Bennett's case. This time, not only would he lose Bennett's shares, he might have to spit out most of his as well. Father, what should we do now? Jonah was a little lost. This incident happened so suddenly, and had foiled all their plans. Bowen took a few deep breaths and quickly regained his composure. He looked up at Jonah, and said, Go to the accounts room immediately, and destroy all accounts that we have related to Dominic all these years. After this, break up all connections with assets that the Marquis family got through Bennett's influence and those that are in the Grey Area Grey Temple investigation. All from the Marquis Manor are to put down everything that you are doing, and gather in the courtyard right now. Anyone who takes their time will be punished harshly. Just then, a solemn voice echoed throughout the Marquis Manor. They're here. They're too fast. Bowen looked at the door. The desolation on his face was apparent. I want a spicy hot pot, 3 times the level of insanely spicy. Vanessa ordered straight away the moment she, Abraham, Lola, and Randy took their seats. Abraham's face turned green immediately. He looked at Vanessa with a long face, and said, "My dear lady, can we be a little milder? 3 times the level of insanely spicy, is that something that a normal person can handle? It seems like Miss Vanessa's appetite is pretty good." Randy had been eating with Vanessa and the rest very often recently, so his tolerance for spice had improved drastically. No. Didn't Boss Mag say that real men go for insanely spicy? Vanessa looked at Abraham seriously. Uncle Abraham, I want to eat the insanely spicy level. Then, why don't we order a double-flavored pot? I can just use the smaller side. Abraham tried to negotiate his way out. No. The double-flavored pot is an insult to spicy hot pot. Vanessa rejected the suggestion outright. After that, she looked at Yabimiya with a smile, and said, "Big sister Mia, we want the spicy hot pot 3 times the level of insanely spicy. As for the ingredients, we'll have the usual." "All right. Please hold on." Mia nodded with a smile, and turned to the other table. "Ai," Abraham sighed. Whom did he trifle with? It was her father who wanted her back, but he was the one who was tortured. "Miss, aren't we waiting for her first?" "First, young master?" Lola asked softly. "Didn't my brother send someone over with a letter saying that he had no time to come tonight? There's no need to wait for him." Vanessa shook her head. She did not want to see Sean right now, either. She just wanted to enjoy her spicy hot pot. Every meal she ate would mean a meal less to eat. "Oh." Lola nodded. She glanced at Vanessa, and did not speak further. The princess was probably the happiest during her time here in Chaos City. She could enjoy the food that made her happy almost every day. The most important thing was that the dental problems that had been troubling her for years were actually completely solved here. Now that Prince Sean had arrived at Chaos City, she might have to return to Rodu the day after tomorrow, so she was naturally unhappy. "Boss, the first barrel of rum is almost empty," Mia reminded Mag as she placed 8 glasses of rum on the tray, and saw that the barrel indicated that it was less than a third full. "We have sufficient in our store." "Don't worry about that," Mag answered with a smile. Because Connie wasn't of age yet, he basically brought all the alcohol Hannah had in the store with him, especially those batches more than 20 years old. According to the market price, that batch of rum could fetch more than 1 billion copper coins. After all, any bottle of Old Sims rum that exceeded 50 years old was probably priceless. However, other than the small amount that he had decided to keep for his own enjoyment, the rest of the rum was going to be the base for blending at the new brewery. Brewing wine was a long-term investment. Without enough old wine, they would not be able to mark up the price. Therefore, that batch of old rum that Mag had would become the base for the brewery so that it could pick up speed and survive through the awkward 3-year new rum stage. He did not intend to cheat Hannah of her money. After all, it was a large sum of inheritance her grandfather had left for her. Of course, he did not want to change it to cash for her straight away. After all, no one would know for sure if she would give up her talent and live off the money after she inherited it. Money really forced out a person's talents. He intended to use 10 barrels of 15-year-old rum to open the market for rum in Chaos City, and then cut off supply for a while until the new brewery was ready to officially launch the new rum. The marketing strategies of Pul and Xiomi are still worth learning from. Of course, those companies selling Mao Tai are even better at this. After all, they can still be doing very well despite having no stock almost all the time. Mag glanced over at the designated hot pot area. Vanessa and Abraham were sitting together, and Sean was not around. It seemed like he had to be busy at the city lord's castle right now. However, Sean's visit this time was probably to bring Vanessa back with him. Actually, he was quite fond of this little princess. She was innocent and pure, and was not stuck up or self-entitled. Therefore, he had been willing to help her cure her dental problems. King Andrei and his 2 sons weren't any kind souls, but this daughter and the young prince were okay. Mag was not the extreme kind that would make a sweeping judgment. Of course, if Sean were to eat at Mamie restaurant, he wouldn't mind recommending him the latest dark cuisine recipe to try. Chapter 1607 Let's have a staring contest. The investigation is still ongoing, and it doesn't look too good. However, as long as the Marquis family is not directly involved in any illegal activities, bribing a city lord's castle official and possessing illegal assets are enough to keep him inside for a period, Dicus replied with a smile. Just a period is going too easy on him, isn't it? The Marquis family has to spit out everything they got with the help of Dominic all these years, and more. That would then be enough for him to feel the pain for quite a while, Dicus continued. He then pulled out a letter and passed it to Mag. This is the official ruling for the hot pot restaurant. It has the city lord's stamp on it. In the future, no one will come to the hot pot restaurant to claim ownership again. Mag unrolled the official ruling and glanced through it. There was Michael's city lord stamp on it, and it was also clearly written that the hot pot restaurant belonged to Rena. There was no doubt about it anymore. Please thank the city lord on my behalf for upholding justice. Mag kept the official ruling, and looked at Dicus with a smile, saying, "Thank you for taking the trouble to make this trip so late at night. That's all right. This is after all because of some internal problems at the city lord's castle. We are supposed to apologize for all that had happened. I will not disturb your rest, then. I'll come over for breakfast tomorrow morning." Dicus bade his farewell and left. Everything is settled. Those people who tried to lay hands on the hot pot restaurant are going to live in the VIP cell next door. With this official ruling, there wouldn't be any more conflict over the hot pot restaurant, Mag told Rena, who was about to leave with Mia, as he entered the restaurant. Is that true? Rena received the official ruling with a smile, and looked through it carefully. She said with joy, "That's great. Now the hot pot restaurant can open according to plan." "Oh, right. I haven't asked you when you plan on opening." "Mamie restaurant will close on the day of your opening so everyone can go over to support you," Mag said. He had completely forgotten about it after all the running around. Rena thought for a while, and said, "The renovation is basically complete. For the hiring process, Ferris has already contacted a batch of outstanding elves for me. I am thinking of interviewing them tomorrow, and choosing the best several as employees. There will be a 3-day training, and then we can officially open 5 days later." "That is very fast." Mag nodded with a smile. 5 days later happened to be the usual off day for Mamie restaurant. Rena probably also thought of that. "What is Big Sister Rena's hot pot restaurant going to be called?" Amy asked curiously as she ran over with Ugly Duckling in her hands. "That's right. What are you going to call it?" Mia and the rest all looked at Rena curiously. "I want to call the restaurant Mana Hot Pot Restaurant because Boss is the one who created Hot Pot, and he passed it over to me to develop it into a new hot pot restaurant." Rena covered her face. "I am really bad at naming, this is the only one I could come up with after thinking for a long time." Mag's eyes lit up when he heard the name, and he smilingly said, "I think Mana Hot Pot Restaurant sounds great. It sounds a little like a subsidiary of Mamie Restaurant, and it has a good meaning as well." "Yeah. I think it sounds good too. It also sounds very familiar, as though it's our own hot pot restaurant." Mia nodded in agreement. "Then if Big Sister Ferris opens a kebab restaurant, would it be called May's Kebab Restaurant? Amy asked with a smile. We can keep this naming method. Mag nodded. He was also terrible at naming. Then I'll keep this name. Rena thought that the name she came up with would be laughed at. She didn't expect everyone to be so supportive. After everyone left, Mag went up to wash up, and told the two children a short bedtime story. After they fell asleep, he ignored Irina's suggestive look, and returned to his room. He locked the door and went straight to bed. He took in a few deep breaths, and opened the test field for the god of cookery. Let's have a staring contest. Mag saw a flash of white before he came face to face with a wall of eyeballs. The large eyeballs felt as though they were glowing with some sort of evilness, making one's hair stand F***ck. System, are you mad? Mag jumped back in shock. To make good roasted pig's eyes, you'll have to know and understand pig's eyes well. The first step is to tell which ones are the real eyes just by looking. Please find 100 pig's eyes that fulfill the conditions to be roasted among these 10,000 eyeballs. The system's emotionless voice echoed. Mag swallowed. He looked at the eyeballs in front of him, and felt his scalp go numb. This was quite a headache. To make good roasted pig's eyes, he would have to get rid of the fear of looking at the pig's eyes. Even if he wasn't able to develop love and passion for it, he could at least be calm during the roasting, and prevent the mistake of causing the eyeball to explode during the process. Roasting was a form of art on charcoal fire. To create the perfect roasted pig's eyes, one had to have a very good understanding of every pig's eye, and have good control over the fire and temperature. Mag took a few deep breaths while standing in front of the wall of pig's eyes before searching for the real pig's eyes patiently. There should be other eyeballs including cow's eyes, sheep's eyes, and more. Mag could only try to discern the real pig's eyes based on his memory and judgment. It was a very meticulous and tiring job. It was revolting and scalp-numbing at the start. However, Mag started to become numb as he looked through the 10,000 eyeballs. To him, these eyeballs which had originally exuded an evil glow slowly became normal ingredients like corn and ham. His goal was to choose the ingredients he needed from a pile of useless ones. After he developed this mentality, he became even more efficient. Mag picked out 120 pig's eyes from the 10,000 eyeballs very quickly, and completed the system's mission with a surplus. Ding! Following that crisp ring, the scene before Mag's eyes changed. He's back in the familiar kitchen. On the wall at the side was a 365-day countdown timer. Roasted pig's eyes. Luckily I haven't tried this dark cuisine yet. I suppose the requirements would not be too strict, right? Mag pulled out a basin of pig's eyes from the fridge as he mumbled to himself. The eyeballs, which were dug out from the roots, still had all the meat and fat attached to them. The bamboo skewer should not be skewered through the eyeball, but through the meat. Otherwise, the customers would not be able to experience that ceremonious moment when the liquid squirted out from the eyeball. Chapter 1608. You even copy scripts. As the surface of the pig's eyes sizzled, a delicious scent slowly wafted out. It does seem like nothing much. Mag raised his brow. He flipped the skewers in his hands as he slowly shifted them towards the area with a bigger fire. Pop! One of the eyeballs on the skewers suddenly burst. The boiling liquid squirted everywhere, and some of it even flew towards Mag's face. F***ck, it really will explode. Mag dodged easily. Pop, 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 pop! The remaining pig's eyes all burst almost simultaneously. Mag quickly let go of the bamboo skewers, and took 2 big steps back to escape the boiling liquid which squirted around as the eyeballs burst. This is probably the most dangerous dish I've made. Mag looked at the walls that were covered messily with the liquid. He smiled awkwardly. If this were to happen in a real kitchen, that would be quite a disaster. Mag did not have to clean up. Around 5 seconds later, the grill was as clean as before. It seems like I still have to follow the expert's experience and procedures strictly. It's impossible to make this if I get too full of myself. Mag quickly reset his attitude, and picked up a new bamboo skewer to make a new skewer of pig's eyes. He stood before the grill seriously, and started roasting the pig's eyes again. The temperature requirements for roasted pig's eyes were very strict, and that made Mag, who was already very adept at the techniques of roasting 200 kebabs at the same time, a little impatient. However, after the bursting incident, Mag's ego was quickly kept in check. Beef would not burst, but this was an ingredient with a temper, so you had to be gentle with it. After around 20 minutes, the pig's eyes had been roasted to a beautiful shiny brown. They had shrunk significantly, and the slightly fatty surface had shriveled up, and was even sizzling with oil. The enticing fragrance of roasted meat wafted over, and the dish was completed after sprinkling some chili powder and cumin. It doesn't seem too difficult if you have a little more patience. Mag sized the roasted pig's eyes in his hand. There were 4 pig's eyes on a skewer. The pig's eyes did not look so terrifying after they were roasted. At least one would not accidentally meet eyes with a pair of dead pig's eyes. However, for most people, the appearance of this dish was still rather shocking. Most people would probably refuse to eat it knowing that it was roasted pig's eyes. Mag looked at the roasted pig's eyes in his hands. If it wasn't because the smell was really enticing after roasting, and that he was already used to pig's eyes, he might not even try this kind of super dark cuisine. System, have I succeeded? Mag asked casually. I've never tried something like roasted pig's eyes before in my previous life. There probably isn't much of a standard for this dish, right? Point 1. The surface of the third pig's eyes from the top is too dry and hard. This is because the eyeball itself has too little fat. Therefore, during the roasting process, you have to spread oil on it individually. This is a problem that an outstanding chef should have realized and taken the initiative to solve during the cooking process. Point 2. The second pig's eye was not skewered in tightly enough, and it moved during the process of roasting. Therefore, the entire pig's eyes could not reach the passable standard. Your carelessness could ruin an entire dish. Point 3. The system listed all the mistakes that Mag made during the seemingly perfect roasting process. That sounds like there are a lot of problems indeed. Mag nodded as he accepted the system's positive criticism. If that was all, he would be able to make the perfect roasted pig's eyes in no time at all, since all the problems lay in the details. The standards for a successful roasted pig's eyes. Once you bite into it, the liquid in the eyeball will squirt out, and it will not have a fishy smell, and the taste will still leave one asking for more. The eyeball is chewy and springy on the outside, but soft and juicy on the inside. The cornea should be crispy like a soft bone to bring a different texture during the chewing experience. The system continued to list the criteria. Mag, hey, system. If I don't have any partial memory loss from the transmigration, I don't think I've tried the roasted pig's eyes before, so this kind of overly strict standards aren't raised by me, right? Mag asked with a frown. The wider the scope in the criteria, the higher the requirements were because the system would follow the highest standards. This came from the script of One Life, One Kebab One, the system replied. You even copy scripts? Mag rolled his eyes. Didn't I cite the source? The system retorted. Mag opened his mouth speechlessly. However, he quickly found his words. I think this script could have elements of exaggeration in it. As a candidate for the god of cookery with the best roasting experience, if you couldn't even meet this bit of criteria from the script, that would be worse than the exaggeration. Fine, you win. Mag thought for a while, and felt that the system actually had a point. He quickly went back to roasting the pig's eyes. What every professional chef should do was to create delicacies that exceeded the customer's expectations. It was just like how an ordinary bowl of soybean milk and an ordinary stick of yueshao would have different flavors in the hands of different chefs. What Mag had to do was make the delicacy have a different color of its own. The taste is lacking. Fail. There is a fishy taste in the liquid. Fail. Fail. The days on the countdown timer decreased slowly as Mag faced failure after failure. His roasting techniques became even better, and the pig's eye skewers grew from 1 stick to 2 to 3 and to a handful. For that moment, Mag thought that he had already become one with the skewers and the grill. He could feel the temperature of the charcoal fire, and also feel the minute changes as the skewers were roasting. Then, he would flip the skewers at an appropriate time, and spread some oil and sauce. This was a very strange feeling. It felt as though time had slowed down, and he could control everything as he wished. Ding! The perfect pig's eye has been achieved. Mag placed a handful of the roasted pig's eyes on the plate in front of him when he heard the system message. Did I succeed? Mag did not appear to be too surprised. Instead, he was slightly shocked. He felt that this serving of roasted pig's eyes was not perfect enough, and he could make them better on his next round. He looked up at the countdown timer on the wall. 100 days had already passed unknowingly. No wonder it's said that roasting is not easy, and it's even more difficult to become a master, Master thought to himself. The time he took to learn the roasted pig's eyes was almost the same as the time he took when he was learning the Buddha jumps over the wall. Mag was not in a hurry to leave the test field for the god of cookery. Instead, he continued to practice the roasted pig's eyes. He wanted to make it even more perfect. One Chinese food documentary. Chapter 1609. This restaurant's owner isn't simple. There's a lot to do at the borders. The orcs keep coming to invade our territory, so I really couldn't step away from work. Sean let out an embarrassed laugh. He looked at his only sister, and said, "Aren't I here to visit you after I'm done with the war? Tisk royal father sent you over. You didn't even come specially to visit me." Vanessa rolled her eyes. She looked at Sean cautiously. "Tell me, did royal father tell you to catch me and bring me back? You've left home for months. Both royal father and royal mother are very worried, and they also miss you a lot. My other purpose for coming to Chaos City other than the official visit is to fetch you back. How can you say that I'm catching you?" Sean nodded. He looked at Vanessa's pearly white teeth, and exclaimed in surprise. "Also, have all your teeth been fixed? Big sister Irina and big sister Zixi fixed it for me." Vanessa nodded. She bared her teeth, and proudly said, "Look, aren't they neat and white? Mm. You look very pretty when you smile." Sean nodded with a smile. Although he was surprised that Irina would actually help Vanessa fix her teeth, he was truly happy. He knew very well how Vanessa became depressed over the years because of her teeth. He had not seen her smile so brightly just like today for many years. That's not important. What's important is that I don't want to go home just yet. I like Chaos City, and I want to stay here for a while more, Vanessa said seriously. She reached out a finger and pointed to Abraham, who was sipping his morning tea at the side, and continued, with Uncle Abraham. "My little princess, please don't drag me down with you. I have no say in this at all," Abraham said after taking a sip of tea. "Big brother Sean." Vanessa looked at Sean with puppy dog eyes. There were already tears shimmering in her large eyes. "This is royal father's order. I have no say as well." Sean shook his head lightly. His heart softened a little when he saw the tears in Vanessa's eyes, and he gently said, "The situation on the continent isn't very stable in this period, and the situation in Chaos City has also become a little complicated. Royal Father told me to fetch you back because he's worried about you. Besides, you've been out for so long. It is time you go back to meet Royal Father and Royal Mother. I think things are fine in Chaos City. Everyone is very friendly, and it's not complicated here at all." Vanessa pouted. Her face fell when she saw the resolution in Sean's face, and she said, "I'm going to Mamie restaurant for dinner. Are you coming along? I'll reject the dinner banquet at the city lord's castle." Sean nodded with a smile. It had been a very long time since he had a nice meal with Vanessa. Besides, he really wanted to see what kind of charm this restaurant that made Vanessa refuse to go home had. All right. I'll wait for you tonight. Be sure to come back early. If we're late, we will not be able to make it to the line, Vanessa reminded. Line. Sean was confused. Mamie restaurant has too many customers, so if you want to eat there, you have to line up. It's on a first come, first serve basis, and if you're late, you won't make it to the line, Abraham explained with a smile. I would have to trouble Uncle to help me reserve the entire restaurant. I would like to have a good meal with Vanessa tonight, and I don't want anyone else to be around, Sean told Abraham. It was not befitting their status as the first prince, princess, and duke of the Roth Empire to need to line up at a restaurant, and even share a space with other customers. I might have the money, but I'm not capable enough to do it. I'm afraid even City Lord Michael isn't able to reserve the restaurant. Abraham shrugged and expressed his reluctance to even try. This restaurant's owner isn't simple. Sean was bewildered. That's not exactly it. He's just quite a character. Abraham shook his head with a laugh. Do you remember the one who won the best chef of the banquet during the king's last birthday banquet? Yes. Sean thought for a while and nodded. Josh was quite cocky because of the chef. That chef might be a nobody, but he actually rejected the king's invitation to join the royal kitchen, and that made quite an impression. He's the one who opened this restaurant. He's the restaurant owner who treats all the customers equally. So even City Lord Michael would have to line up if he were to go over to the restaurant for a meal. You want me to reserve the place? Abraham opened his hands up and laughed. That fellow, Sean frowned. Boss Mag is super nice. He was the reason my teeth got cured. He even gifted me a toothbrush and toothpaste, and taught me how to keep my teeth clean. I won't have to worry about my teeth going bad again. Also, the food he makes is incredibly good. Spicy grilled fish, beggar's chicken, steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers, spicy crayfish, and the best of them all, hot pot. He's a treasure that the heavens had bestowed upon us to give us endless delicious creations, subverting our imagination time and again. Besides, his rules are all set for the good of the customers. Although that might inconvenience those with power and authority, it gives real foodies a fair chance to enjoy his food. Vanessa looked at Sean, and seriously said, Big brother Sean, if you try to break Mamie restaurant's rules, I won't bring you there for good food. Sean looked at the serious-looking Vanessa. This little fellow would rarely wear such an expression on her face. It seemed like she really liked that chef and that restaurant. After a brief hesitation, he smilingly said, In that case, I'll come back earlier so I can also thank the chef who satisfied my younger sister's stomach and also cured her teeth. Mm. I'll be waiting for you. Vanessa nodded happily. After that, she walked straight out of the door while saying, Uncle, do you want to get the soybean milk and yoshao? If not, I won't be waiting for you. Of course I'm going. I was waiting for you. Abraham put his teacup down in a hurry, and walked towards the door. He stopped for a while at the door and turned back to tell Sean, Sean, you must be very busy today, so we won't be entertaining you. Let's have a few rounds of drinks tonight. All right. Sean nodded. He looked at Abraham who quickly turned to leave and laughed. He picked up the teacup at the side and took a sip before walking towards the door as well. He was busy, and would need to meet the authorities of Chaos City to have a good chat. Chapter 1610 Is It Really Pig's Eyes? Although the Buffett family and Moreton family had increased the gap with the Marquis family and Dodge's family over the years, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse, and the Marquis family was still a big figure in Chaos City. When news of Bennett being arrested had spread, many had guessed if the Marquis family would have been implicated. However, judging from how things had progressed afterward, it had seemed that not only had the Marquis family not gotten implicated, they had even managed to take over some of Bennett's assets which appeared clean, and had emerged as the biggest winner in that incident. However, it had only been a few days, and the Grey Temple aimed their swords against the Marquis family. This caused quite a commotion. Some said that the Marquis family had made use of Bennett's power, and had also dabbled in things that they shouldn't, leading to the investigation. Others said that the Marquis family's leader had taken over Bennett's assets by force, and that caught the Grey Temple's attention, leading to the investigation. Some even said that it was because Bowen's son had seduced the lover of some big shot in the Grey Temple, causing the tragedy to happen. That fellow, Bowen, is too greedy. I told his father that back in those days. If it were me, I would rather pass the entire family over to that wastrel Bennett than to Bowen, Ian lamented after taking a sip of tea to Sheer, who had yet to finish her breakfast. Sheer put the last bite of bread into her mouth and chewed well. She picked up her white handkerchief and wiped her mouth. After making sure that there were no more crumbs left, she calmly said, "That wastrel is currently in the jail, and that's where he's going to stay. If old Marquis had been slightly fairer to him back then, all these things wouldn't have happened," Ian lamented. "I'm afraid the Marquis family will never be able to get back on their feet again. Even if Bennett had taken over Bowen as the head of the Marquis family, I don't think he would have known his place," Sheer said as she shook her head. Ian was stunned. He looked at Sheer and pondered for a while before smilingly saying, "I have the best foresight among the 4 major families. As for that, I agree." Sheer nodded. Ian quickly stopped smiling, and said, "Our family better don't meddle in this incident. Since Dominic has been caught, it seems like the City Lord has set his mind on cleaning up the grey area in Chaos City. I reckon a lot more people would be arrested after this. I've already done an internal investigation, and will hand those problematic fellows over to the Grey Temple for them to do as they please." Sheer nodded. "Well done." Ian put his teacup down, and stood up with a smile as he said, "Do you want to feed the fishes?" "No, I'll have to make a trip to the City Lord's castle to meet that first prince who travelled all the way here." Sheer shook her head. "Go ahead, then. I'll go fishing." Ian did not probe further. He put his hands behind him and strolled away. Sheer stood up and watched Ian leave the restaurant before leaving while turning to her assistant, who hurried behind her with a briefcase, and asking, "Have you found out if Mr. Mag has anything to do with the Marquis family's investigation?" "There's no evidence linking the two together as of now, but an employee called Rena from Mamie Restaurant just got a shop that was originally under Bennett's name. In addition, she had some conflicts with the Marquis family with regards to the ownership of that property," the secretary quickly answered. "Employee?" Sheer frowned. "Yes. Bennett seemed to have some conflict with her, and I think this shop was given to her directly from the City Lord's castle and Grey Temple." The secretary nodded, and continued, "If there's a need, I can investigate this matter." "That won't be necessary. I've been worried that Mr. Mag would be oppressed by the Marquis family. It looks like my worries were unfounded. We'll stop this here." "You don't have to investigate further," Sheer said. "Yes." The secretary nodded, and started reporting the next matter. Mag came out from the test field for the god of cookery. He opened his eyes, and the alarm clock at the side rang. He spaced out for a moment before switching it off. After listening to the crackling sound of the flames and the sizzling sound of the pig's eyes on the grill for more than 100 days, even the alarm became music to his ears. "Why don't I launch the roasted pig's eyes today? On top of that, I must roast them in the glass partition so that the customers can see it." Mag's lips turned up slowly. Otherwise, he would have wasted those over 100 days of hard work to perfect the roasted pig's eyes. The number of pig's eyes he'd roasted could be linked together to make 10 rounds around a pigsty. That would be a very impactful advertisement. Mag did not waste any more time in bed. He dispelled the discomfort from staying in the test field for the god of cookery for too long, and went straight out of bed to take a cold shower. He then changed into his chef's suit, and went downstairs to prepare breakfast. Mag suppressed the urge to add the roasted pig's eyes into the luxurious morning breakfast set, fearing that it might scare everyone early in the morning and affect their appetite. "Father, what delicious food have you made today?" Amy was the first to be downstairs. She tiptoed and looked through the kitchen door. "Soybean milk, yueshao, tofu pudding, everything." "Amy, you can have whatever you want," Mag said with a smile as he looked at Amy, who had a little lump of hair standing amidst her long silver flock. The young fellow had already changed into her white down jacket. She looked extremely cute, just like a round little penguin, but her hair was not brushed. Because of Irina's special hair brushing technique, Mag had taken the initiative to be responsible for Amy's hair. After all, Irina had her hair down all the time, so she had no experience with hair brushing. She would usually follow her imagination, and end up with a lightning rod hairstyle. Amy pondered for a while before saying, "Then I'll have a set of yueshao with sweet tofu pudding and a serving of pepper steak, medium well, with more ketchup at the side." "All right. Let's wait for the big sisters to come before we eat together." Mag nodded with a smile. He had no opinions on the little fellow's matching since she would come up with different pairings to eat every day. During breakfast, Mag announced the addition of a new dish. "Our roasted pig's eyes." Babla, who was drinking her soybean milk, choked. She looked at Mag in disbelief. "Is it really pig's eyes?" Mia looked at Mag, equally shocked. The women all had similar expressions. Other than shock, there was also a hint of horror. "Yes. Charcoal grilled roasted pig's eyes," Mag affirmed with a nod. "I'm not eating strange food like this," Irina declared. "Me too." Babla raised her hand to concur. Just hearing the dish's name was enough to make her scalp go numb, not to mention trying the roasted eyes. "I don't dare to try it, either," Anna said softly. Same here," Jane raised her hand meekly with a helpless and pitiful expression. All of a sudden, other than Amy and Rena, everyone expressed their unwillingness to try this dish which had a name that made one uncomfortable. "Rena, are you willing to give it a try?" Mag looked at Rena. She was the only one sitting quietly without giving any opinion. Rena met Mag's expectant gaze. Although she was filled with fear, and did not know what to expect from the roasted pig's eyes, there had to be some people willing to sacrifice themselves on the road to the birth of a delicacy. It was apparent that Boss needed someone like that right now. She hesitated for a while, but still nodded resolutely. "I can give it a try. It's all right. You don't have to force yourself. I will launch this dish tonight. We'll let the customers decide," Mag said with a smile. He could tell that Rena was afraid of the roasted pig's eyes, and he was very touched when she nodded. However, there was no need for her to be the lab rat. "You're going to launch it straight away?" Rena looked at Mag in shock. She had never seen Mag make the roasted pig's eyes before, and he mentioned this dish early in the morning today. Was he going to serve the dish to the customers straight away without anyone trying it out? "Yes." Mag nodded, and explained, "This is a hometown cuisine. I am confident in it." Rena nodded and did not probe further. When Boss says he's confident, he's never wrong. After the morning operating hours, Mag took out a little blackboard, and wrote something on it before hanging it on the door. After that, Mag pulled out a lounge chair, and placed it by the door. He set up a small stove at the side, and put a ceramic pot over the stove. The fragrance of the black tea started wafting out together with the steam. Mag closed his eyes leisurely as he bathed in the warm winter sun, enjoying this rare relaxation. After quite a while, Mag turned his head to the side and saw Gloria, who was standing by the pot of tea. He sat up with a smile, and said, "Miss Gloria, when did you come?" He actually felt someone coming over 5 minutes ago, and the familiar smell allowed him to guess who it was without the need to open his eyes. However, the warm sun felt so good he couldn't bear to open his eyes. "I've only arrived a while ago. I must have disturbed your sunbathing session," Gloria said apologetically. She blushed a little, maybe because the sun today was really hot, or maybe it was because of that jaw and closed eyes just now. I was just resting a while under the sun. You're not disturbing me. Mag shook his head with a smile. He pointed to a chair by the stove, and said, "The tea's ready." I was still worried that no one would drink it with me. I wonder if Miss Gloria has the time to have a cup with me. I'd be more than happy to. Gloria sat down with a smile, picked up a handkerchief on the table to pick up the teapot, and poured tea into 2 cups. The two of them had drunk tea together several times, and could be considered good tea friends. As the light tea scent wafted over, their minds and hearts were calmed. "You must have been very busy with blue suede, right?" Mag asked as he picked up the ceramic cup, and felt the warmth through his fingers. I've bought a piece of land in the northern part of the city to build a new batch of factories. I intend to move all the production lines to the northern part of the city after we're done with this batch of down jackets, Gloria said with a nod. Are the new factories ready? Mag was slightly shocked. He didn't think that Gloria would be so ambitious and efficient. It was just last month when she talked about the factories not being able to produce enough for blue suede, and now she's already bought land, and the factories are even ready. Yes. Gloria nodded. However, she worriedly said, it's just that it's too difficult to hire tailors, and most of them request very high salaries. They quote them according to the price of a custom-made piece, and that raised the cost up by quite a lot. They charge you according to a custom-made piece even though you went to them with a ready-made sketch. Mag raised his brow. These tailors were so shameless. But they know the price of blue suede. This is just a small opinion of mine. Make use of this period when you're shifting your factory to analyze the steps of the tailoring process. Other than customized pieces, the clothes that are produced in batches would only require nimble assembly line workers to work on after you've analyzed the steps. You don't need a tailor at all. Mag looked at Gloria, and suggested, choose a batch of honest and reliable tailors from the current group that you have, and give them the role of technical supervisors so that they can be in charge of the different parts of the clothes making process to ensure the quality of the clothes. Analyze the steps. Gloria pondered for a while. Her eyes lit up, and she said, if I analyzed the steps, I would be able to solve the problem of having a shortage of tailors, and that would also reduce the costs. Promoting the tailors to a managerial role would allow them to continue working on their strengths so that the overall quality of the finished product can be guaranteed while efficiency is increased. Because this is a brand new system, you need a trustworthy assistant that could oversee the entire process, and at the same time, you need a batch of workers that are easy to manage to help Blue Suede tide over this transition period, Mag continued. Uncle Mars is a very outstanding talent in management. He has been managing the factory for me all this while. I believe that he could do well as the manager of the new factory. As for workers, Gloria appeared troubled. Blue Suede had more than 200 employees currently, and it was true that some of them loved to goof off and were difficult to manage. She would need to hire even more workers at the new factory, and it would not be easy to hire good workers. Do you know that a group of elves has recently come to Chaos City? Mag asked. I've heard that the elf princess, Princess Irina, led tens of thousands of elves over to Chaos City. Gloria nodded. This was no secret in Chaos City, but why would Mag bring this up? Princess Irina has been dining at Mamie restaurant often recently. I can help you ask her if the elves need to get a job. Maybe she can solve your problem, Mag said with a smile. Elven workers! Gloria exclaimed with delight. Elves had been the most praised race on the Chaos City's workers' market. They were infinitely adored by employers, be it because of their work attitude or high efficiency. If she could change to a batch of elven workers for the new factories, it would definitely be good news for Blue Suede. After all, he had nearly 30,000 night elves ready to work. Moreover, every employer would love a worker who was outstanding in every aspect. Of course, Mag would not bear to let the other capitalists exploit such outstanding talents. He had a few big projects going on at the same time currently. A super big production chain that encompassed the whole of the weaving industry was in progress, and his target was not just the market in Chaos City. On top of that, Gloria, Rena, and the rest only formed a part of the commercial layout, and Mag was more than happy for the Night Elves to be employed under them, and help their career soar. If it's possible, that would be a leap in quality for Blue Suede. Gloria was unable to hide her excitement. The textile factory that I've invested in has already started to produce goods. If you have the time, you can go to the northern part of the city to get them from the person in charge. If you could carry these stocks, we can discuss our partnership, Mag said with a smile. I've organized the Moreton family's textile industry for the past month, and have already stopped all the production lines that are making a loss, or have bad quality, and also stopped partnership with suppliers with outdated designs. However, I've kept the core shipping team and sales team. If we've ascertained that the goods from your textile factory have suitable quality after the assessment, we might use it for our main sales, Gloria said. Mag had mentioned the partnership before, so after she took over the Moreton family's textile line, she started a huge reformation, removing more than half of the original production line that included production, shipping and sales. She only kept the core shipping team and sales team. She had learned a lot from Mag professionals earned professionally. There wasn't a need to target the entire industry. Very well. If you have the time to go to the northern part of the city, look for an elf called Ashley. She is the person in charge of the factory now. Mag looked at Gloria with admiration. It seemed like she had grown a lot during this period. Okay. Gloria nodded and sipped the tea as she avoided Mag's gaze. She felt her cheeks grow slightly hotter, as though it was because of that blazing gaze. Gloria did not stay for long. She left after finishing the tea. Mag took a little nap under the sun. When he woke up, he saw an alluring face looking back at him the moment he opened his eyes. It had a pair of sexy red lips, locks of big curls, and a pair of thin, monolid eyes. He looked down. Her full cups were almost on him. A fresh scent wafted over. It was a scent that could easily cause one to sink in. Mag opened his eyes. That was strangely familiar. That woman took a step back upon seeing that Mag had woken up, and asked, "Hey, are you the owner of this restaurant?" Isn't that Angela?" Mag finally saw her face clearly after she took a step back, and was stunned. She was their restaurant's one-day employee, Miss Succubus, when they were at the Demon Islands. Mag did not expect to meet her again at Chaos City after she disappeared that day, and was really shocked. Angela looked at Mag, who seemed lost in thoughts as he looked at her, and pressed her lips together. Men were all like that. Whenever they saw her, they just couldn't control their eyes and the lower half of their bodies. "Yes. I am the owner of this restaurant. We don't open yet. If you want to eat, you'll have to wait for another hour or so," Mag said calmly as he glanced at his watch after quickly retracting his gaze. He did not know this extraordinary Miss Succubus very well. Besides, it was not appropriate for whatever happened in the Demon Islands to leak, so he did not intend to acknowledge this ex-employee. It was fine that he knew that she was fine after meeting coincidentally like this. This fellow is actually making me wait? Angela retracted her gaze. She was shocked that Mag was ignoring her. Besides, there was a seat there, but he didn't ask her to take a seat, nor did he offer her, who was quite thirsty, a warm cup of tea. Mag poured himself a cup of tea and drank it leisurely, ignoring Angela completely. "I said," Angela started. Mag looked at her out of courtesy. He met those long, slanted blue eyes. Her gaze was mysterious and alluring. Suddenly, her eyes started spinning like an endless vortex, trying to pull him into the depth of an abyss. "Is anything the matter?" Mag asked. He wasn't charmed by my eyes of enchantment. Angela froze. She looked in disbelief at Mag, who was very calm, as though he was looking at a fool. She was an 8th-tier succubus, and her casual eyes of enchantment could easily enchant men and make them succumb to her. However, his spiritual power had exceeded the 10th tier. Besides, he had even experienced the Great Old Ones. The eyes of enchantment of this level couldn't even make him dizzy. That being said, this lady seemed to enjoy using the eyes of enchantment on strangers. It seemed like she was trying to prove her charm all the time. Could this fellow be a very powerful magic caster? That can't be. He doesn't have the aura of a magic caster at all. In that case, Angela appeared to have figured things out. Seems like he's impotent too. There were only 2 scenarios when her eyes of enchantment would lose its effect. The first time was at Carapace Island, when she met that crab demon boss with a beard. Although he was impotent, he had a beautiful wife and an extremely cute daughter. This was the second time. This man looks rather handsome, and his body that is hidden under those clothes far surpasses ordinary men. It's hard to believe that he's impotent. Sigh, what a pity. Angela looked at Mag pitifully. Mag retracted his gaze and continued sipping his tea. This lady looked a little abnormal. After realizing that she was ignored once again, Angela was no longer that angry. She retracted her eyes of enchantment. This was so hurtful to an impotent man. She let out a soft cough, and tried to sound as pure and innocent as possible as she said, "In that case, can I take a seat here for a while?" "Go ahead. If you want some tea, help yourself," Mag said without even looking. Although Angela had been his employee for half a day, he hadn't actually paid her for her work, so taking some tea really wasn't too much to ask for. "Thank you." Angela poured a cup of hot tea, and held it in her hands. The heat dispelled the chill and brought a blush to her cheeks. She turned to Mag, and curiously asked, "I heard that you know how to make spicy crayfish." Chapter 1613 Big Sister Angela, what are you doing in Chaos City? Mag answered again. He glanced at Angela. Could it be that this Miss Succubus had noticed something? After getting Mag's affirmation, Angela sighed disappointedly as she grumbled, "Sigh, even if you knew how to make it, it would definitely not be better than the ones made by the fellow at Carapace Island." Mag did not reply. She was not talking to him anyway. "Do you know him? That man who sells crayfish at Carapace Island? The one with a very beautiful wife?" Angela asked while looking at Mag. No, Mag shook his head. He glanced at Angela. "Does this fellow miss his crayfish or his wife? His wife is really beautiful. She's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," Angela sighed. "Young lady, if you're hungry now, you can go take a look ahead. There are a few restaurants that are not bad. Their food isn't any worse than ours," Mag recommended with a smile. He regretted allowing her to take a seat now. "I'm not hungry. I just like the food at your restaurant." Angela shook her head and looked into Mag's eyes. She squinted her long eyes, and curiously asked, "Don't you feel anything towards me? People would always want to make me stay and look forward to having something on with me, but you're trying to chase me away." "No feelings." Mag shook his head honestly. He had already transcended from the lowly level of lust, so he would not be moved by a stranger woman. "That's all right. I am rather interested in your restaurant." Angela turned her head around to look at the restaurant. The floor-to-ceiling glass window was transparent, so she could see the exquisitely furnished restaurant. She really had the urge to go in. "Whatever floats your boat." Mag could not be bothered to be calculative with her. He finished the tea in his cup and started packing up. "Aren't you going to sit a while with me and have some tea?" Angela asked as she watched Mag pack up the tea set and fold the lounge chair as he got ready to go in. "I have to get ready for lunch hours." "Sorry, I won't be able to join you," Mag said without even looking back. "Then can I take a seat inside?" Angela said expectantly as she stood up. No, Mag said firmly and closed the door behind him. This fellow, Angela looked at the closed door in front of her and raised her brow. He's quite a character. Not a single male had ever done this to her before. This fellow was the first, no, the second one. All right. At least he left a cup for me, and that proves that he's not completely heartless, Angela muttered under her breath with a smile as she held the ceramic teacup in her hands. 2 men passed by, and when they saw her, they were awestruck and walked right into a tree. Oh, men! Angela glanced at the 2 men in a sorry state who clambered up awkwardly, and pressed her lips together. I'm still as irresistible. Looks like she didn't come over to look for me, but is here for the crayfish. Since she knew that the crayfish restaurant at Carapace Island was gone, it meant that she went back to look for us, and managed to find her way to Chaos City. Mag put the lounge chair down, and pondered as he watched Angela through the door. He didn't know her well, but Irina seemed to have a positive impression of her. For a succubus to be able to reach the 8th tier at this age meant that she was really talented and capable. Irina seemed to have interacted with her more. I guess she should decide how to settle this. Mag quickly convinced himself, and started his preparatory work for lunch hours. Firas, Mia, and the rest arrived at the restaurant subsequently. There's a very pretty and charming succubus outside. Although her beautiful looks might have been because of her race, I haven't seen a succubus as beautiful as her, Yabimiya exclaimed in awe when she stepped in. Yet, she looks rather young, but she is exuding a charm that would draw one's attention to her, Rina agreed with a nod enviously. She felt like she herself gave off a masculine vibe, and even if she was in the kitchen, she would resemble a professional chef rather than give off the vibe of a housewife. Humph! She's merely a little meteor. Babla snorted as she glanced at her flat chest. She's a rare 8th tier succubus. Very talented, Elizabeth commented. Everyone was discussing fervently the beautiful and powerful succubus at the door, but Jane, who was a little surprised and a little worried, came into the kitchen to Mag, who was making braised bean curd, and said softly, "Boss. That Angela who came over and stayed for 2 days at Carapace Island is now outside." I saw her, and even had tea with her. Mag nodded with a smile. Jane was stunned. Before coming over to Chaos City, Mag had reminded her time and again not to tell anyone what happened at Carapace Island. Now that this Miss Angela had come over to Chaos City, there was a possibility that she would recognize them, and then spill the beans about what happened at Carapace Island. Wasn't Mag worried at all? Did she see you when you came in? Mag asked Jane. I suppose so. Jane nodded. She could not help but take a few more glances at Angela, because she was too shocked, and when their eyes met, she saw the shock on Angela's face as well. In that case, Mag fell silent. He managed to fool her, but forgot about Jane. It seemed like he had no choice but to have a deep conversation with Angela. Do we need to silence her? Jane asked softly. That won't be necessary. Mag shook his head with a smile at Jane, who was distraught. He thought for a while, and said, You don't have to worry about this matter. I will settle it. Jane nodded and did not probe further. Anyway, Boss and Lady Boss could solve anything. There was nothing for her to worry about. Why did that lady with a small golden horn on her head look so familiar? Angela looked towards the door as she stood up and joined the line. After meeting eyes with her, she was certain that she must have met her before. Who could it be? Angela felt that the lady was very, very familiar, but she was unable to ascertain her identity all of a sudden. Just then, a soft voice beside her said, Big Sister Angela, what are you doing in Chaos City? Chapter 1614. To think that behind the refined appearance of this owner, he's actually... Suddenly, after hearing her voice and looking at the cute little maiden, a small silhouette started to form in her mind. In her memory, the only time she saw such a cute little maiden was only at Carapace Island. She was the daughter of the crayfish restaurant owner. Am I mistaken? Seeing that Angela did not respond to her, Amy frowned with bewilderment, and continued, I'm Amy, little Amy, you're back. The restaurant door suddenly opened and Mag walked out. He held Amy's hand, and brought her back into the restaurant. Little Amy? Angela's eyes suddenly lit up. She looked at Amy. Although she did not have the pincers on her head and her looks were a little different, the two images quickly overlapped in her mind. They were of the same size, and even the way they talked was the same. Why would the daughter of the crayfish restaurant owner appear at Chaos City? Was the crayfish restaurant reduced to nothing all of a sudden because of a natural disaster, or was it because of human behavior? Was the family of 3 that had suddenly gone missing still alive? Why would this fellow want to prevent the little fellow from talking? Questions started to surface in Angela's head. She took a step toward Amy, who was about to be dragged away by Mag, and said, Young maiden, if you're kidnapped, blink your eyes. Kidnapped? Mag and Amy both turned around and looked at Angela strangely. He's my father, Amy said with a smile. Madam, this is Chaos City and slander is against the law, Mag said seriously. Although I don't think that Boss Mag should have such a cute daughter like the little boss, I think it's a little too much to say that it's kidnapping. Is this a new pre-meal show that the restaurant launched? Could this beautiful succubus be the restaurant's new employee? The customers erupted into laughter. Could I be mistaken? Angela frowned as she listened to the customers' comments. Let's go. It's time for lunch. Mag held Amy's hand as they walked towards the restaurant. After thinking about so much, he forgot about Amy, but he couldn't blame the little fellow. Even he didn't think that they would meet Angela again at Chaos City. Bye-bye, big sister Angela. Amy waved her little hand warmly at Angela before entering with Mag. My instincts tell me that they're the same person, but why do some things not match up? If this little maiden was I, why would she call the owner of this restaurant her father? What's the link between this restaurant and the crayfish restaurant thousands of miles away? Angela was filled with questions as she watched the restaurant door close slowly. She felt that she was very close to the truth, but she just couldn't seem to get it. Father, don't you know her? She's the big sister that worked in the restaurant when we were selling crayfish at Carapace Island, Amy asked Mag curiously as she followed Mag through the door. I know it's her. Mag nodded. This little fellow's memory was nowhere worse than his, so he did not try to fool her. Besides, after Amy's hint, as long as Angela was not a fool, she would most probably have guessed their identities. So is she continuing to work here? Amy asked again. Mag thought seriously. I'm not sure about that, either, but this is a suggestion worth considering. Rather than silencing her for no reason, after arranging for her to stay by his side and finding a way to make it legitimate, he would naturally not have to worry about her causing any trouble. Look, Camilla's a great example. Irina came back for lunch, and the moment she stepped through the door, she told Mag, we've got an acquaintance. Yes. Mag nodded. How do you plan to settle it? Irina looked at Mag with a seeming smile. You call the shots. You're the one who hired her back then. Mag casually pushed the ball to her court, trying his best not to complicate things and keep himself clean. I find her rather interesting. If she is willing to work at the restaurant, we can just keep her, Irina said with a smile. Mag glanced at Irina. A warning bell rang inside. Angela displayed an abnormal form of interest in Irina, and now it seemed that Irina's impression of her was not bad. This wasn't a very good sign. You have got a problem. No. I'm just afraid that she would spout nonsense about what happened at Carapace Island. It might not be a bad idea to keep her. Mag shook his head. She was just a succubus. He was very confident in his charm. After deciding on a way to settle this, how to make Angela willing to join Mamie restaurant would become a question worth thinking about. Roasted pig's eyes? Such a violent name isn't really like Boss Mag's usual style. The name of the dish alone makes my scalp numb. Would Boss Mag really dig pig's eyes out to roast them? Hee hee. I'm already excited about it. Outside the restaurant, customers started talking about the notice hung above the door. It was mainly the name of the dish that was very impactful. It made one unable to ignore its existence. There was a sort of anticipation, but not looking forward as well. He wouldn't even let pig's eyes off. To think that behind the refined appearance of this owner, he's actually such a pervert. Angela also noticed the little blackboard and pressed her lips together. She came over to Chaos City this time to find a suitable living place for her sisters. Although the faraway little island was quiet and undisturbed, it was really a little too lonely there. During this period, there had been sisters teaming up to escape once every several days, and she now felt as though she was imprisoning them. Therefore, she had decided to come over to Chaos City to recon this neutral city that was termed as the City of Freedom. She wanted to see if the succubi who lived here would really be respected before deciding if she should move her base over to Chaos City. On her way over, she made a trip to Carapace Island, and found out that the crayfish restaurant was reduced to nothing. There were a few crayfish restaurants left on the island with thriving business. It was said that those restaurants were opened by the disciples of the owner of the earliest crayfish restaurant, and the dish was already a well-known delicacy far and wide. After coming to Chaos City, she heard that this Mamie restaurant also sold crayfish, and she somehow made her way here. I want to see if the crayfish in Chaos City is as good as the one at Carapace Island, Angela muttered under her breath. Chapter 1615 Where's the restaurant's lady boss? There was a lot of food on the menu, all of which she'd never heard of before, such as red braised pork, beggar's chicken, steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers. They all sounded like weird dish names, and she did not know what to expect. So many dishes? That owner doesn't look like he'd know how to make so many dishes, Angela muttered. She glanced around, saw the crayfish, and her eyes lit up, but when she saw the price, she frowned. This owner is a rip-off. He's actually selling one crayfish for 1,000 copper coins. That's 10 times the price at Carapace Island. She reached into her pocket and felt around. She hesitated for a while, looked up at Yabimiya, who had been standing there for quite some time, and said, "I want a serving of spicy crayfish." "All right. Please hold on for a moment." Yabimiya nodded with a smile and walked towards the next customer. The service staff in the restaurant are all so beautiful. And they range from half-dragon to magic casters, elves, and more. Angela looked around curiously until she saw Jane. Her gaze stopped at the golden horn on her forehead before she said with certainty, "It's her. The one and only Goldie Horn. The service staff member at the crayfish restaurant on Carapace Island. That little half-elf maiden that seems like the same service staff, and, the owner who is also not reactive towards the eyes of enchantment." Angela's eyes grew brighter as though the answer was almost out. "But, where's the lady boss?" Angela looked left and right, trying to find that beautiful silhouette. Angela was very disappointed not to have found the lady boss, and that made her question her judgment. That makes no sense at all. He couldn't possibly have lost such a beautiful wife, could he? Angela muttered as she craned her neck. She watched Mag busying around through the window to the kitchen and frowned. "Ma'am, is there something wrong with my demeanor?" Harrison, who was sitting opposite her, asked as he adjusted his clothes awkwardly. He had mustered up all his courage in order to sit opposite this beautiful succubus. However, she seemed to be sizing him up. Her charming eyes made his heart race. He finally could not hold himself back as he asked her the question. Angela finally noticed Harrison. She raised her brow. She did not like to share a table with a stranger. However, She had already noticed that this restaurant seemed to have the tradition of sharing tables. If elves could stand sharing a table with a demon, it seemed like she did not have much to complain about. But this human sitting in front of her was really too large. He was probably 3 times her size. Although he was slightly squinting, she did not feel offended. His eyes were probably squeezed together because of the fat. "I'm not looking at you," Angela said honestly. I'm sorry." Harrison's face flushed red. He felt that he had been utterly embarrassed to even raise such a question. "It's all right. It might be because you're too big, so no matter where people are looking, you'll think that they're looking at you." Angela shook her head and dismissed him. "Why, do I feel my heart hurt?" Harrison held his chest uncomfortably. Angela seemed to have noticed that her words were a little too hurtful, so she tried to explain. "That's not what I mean. I just felt that you're blocking my line of vision." Harrison felt himself becoming smaller and smaller. He started curling up into a ball in his chair, and meekly asked, "Is this okay?" Not bad." Angela glanced at the kitchen again. This time, she didn't have to crane her neck, and she nodded with satisfaction. "I didn't expect such a unique succubus to exist." Harrison sighed. Succubi were said to be charming, and they were very good at making use of this point. However, this succubus in front of him seemed a little different. "Are you a regular at this restaurant?" Angela suddenly asked Harrison. "Yeah. I should be from the earliest batch of regulars at Mamie Restaurant. I became their regular soon after the restaurant opened. I've watched it transform from a restaurant without any customers into the most popular restaurant where we have to line up for a long time to eat." Harrison nodded. He was full of pride, as though he was part of this big business by witnessing and taking part in its growth. "Oh!" Angela's eyes lit up. The corner of her lips turned upwards as she smiled charmingly, and said, "Then when did this restaurant open?" Harrison's heart skipped a beat when he saw Angela's smile. He quickly answered, "It should have been almost half a year ago. It started at the beginning of fall, and it's almost midwinter." "Half a year?" Angela frowned. That did not match with the timeline of the crayfish restaurant at Carapace Island. Could her conjecture be wrong? Yet, Boss Mag wasn't afraid that this place would be too remote, since he knew that his food was good. This place used to be deserted, with only some blacksmiths and funeral parlors. His restaurant was the only one in this area. However, as he started launching the delicacies, the restaurant's reputation grew day by day, and that brought business to all the shops in this area. "That's how this area increased to such a scale," Harrison said. "Is that little half-elf really the owner's daughter?" Angela continued asking. "The little boss is Boss Mag's daughter, no doubt. That's something everyone knows. She might look very young, but she's an incredibly powerful magic caster, and is even a disciple to the legendary Lord of Ice and Lord of Fire." "She is the little talented magic caster of Chaos City," Harrison said with a nod. "I see." Angela did not think that the little maiden would have such strong backing. She hesitated for a while before relentlessly asking, "Then what about his wife?" "The lady boss of the restaurant. Boss Mag's wife." Harrison looked at Angela, and suddenly wanted to give himself a big hug. Indeed, a beautiful woman would only start a conversation with him not because she wanted to get to know him, but because she set her eyes on the good-looking Boss Mag. Boss Mag doesn't have a wife. He's one of the most eligible bachelors of Chaos City. The ladies who want to marry him could line up all the way from the door of the restaurant to the city gate. However, he did not have a scandal with anyone all this while. "He is a gentleman," Harrison said. "He doesn't have a wife." Angela pondered again. Although she did not use her eyes of enchantment, she could be certain that this plump man was not lying. However, the information she got from him and her previous judgment and conjecture were very different. That made her very confused. "Hello, here's your spicy crayfish." Just then, Yabimiya placed a plate of spicy crayfish in front of Angela. This is it. Angela stared wide-eyed at the plate of crayfish, and almost jumped out of her seat. Chapter 1616 This darn tastiness. Boss Mag's spicy crayfish is superb. Although this flavor was only launched later, it was nowhere worse than the braised crayfish. It's one of the best foods to go with a drink. Harrison could not help but comment when he saw Angela's agitation. I know, Angela replied casually. She could not wait to try this spicy crayfish and see if it was really the same as the one from II Crayfish Restaurant. If it was, she had to get to the bottom of things, and see if there was any conspiracy. The spicy and numbing smell made one's throat heat up, but at the same time, it also made one salivate. She reached out to grab the crayfish, and twisted its head off. The crayfish butter almost flowed out as the smell and heat wafted over. It was something even the spiciness was unable to conceal. Gulp. Angela swallowed. If she had an obsession with II Crayfish Restaurant in the past, she would think that it was because of the beautiful lady boss. Right now, she was certain that at least half of it was because of this unforgettable crayfish. Slurp. Angela put the crayfish head to her mouth and sucked on it. Oh, this darn tastiness! The crayfish butter melted in her mouth immediately. It did not have a fishy smell at all. Amidst the freshness came the spiciness. The deliciousness of this dish was completely reflected in this mouthful of crayfish butter. The tastiness and spiciness were brought out perfectly. The spicy sauce felt like a scoop of hot water was being poured on the taste buds. The tongue became numb in an instant. As the tongue transmitted the spiciness over, her body quickly grew hotter. Yes. This is the taste. It's this feeling. Angela's face was flushed red. Her bright eyes had a hint of dreaminess in it. She felt as though she was already lost in this darn tastiness, but she was clear and aware that this was the same taste as that of the crayfish from II Crayfish Restaurant. Gulp. Harrison, who was sitting opposite her, was trying his best to avert his gaze, but he still could not help but swallow his saliva. What was this? He just wanted to have a meal. Yet, there were actually such benefits for him to enjoy. However, why was it that he somehow could sense the holy light? Harrison felt as though he had seen something, yet didn't see anything at all. The beautiful scene of clothes bursting was blocked by a flash of holy light. Since she'd ordered spicy crayfish, it seemed inevitable that he had to come clean. How should he fool this seemingly not so intelligent lady? Mag watched Angela, who was covered by the holy light. This familiar light cleansed and purified his heart. SSS ha, Angela put down the crayfish head, which she had eaten cleanly, and stuck her tongue out in an attempt to cool it from the numbing spiciness. However, this level of spiciness could not be suppressed just by sticking out one's tongue. Her gaze landed on the crayfish meat on the plate, and she eagerly picked up the crayfish, which was the size of a baby's arm. She pried open the shell easily from the slit, and pulled out the meat. She dipped the meat in the sauce, and put it into her mouth. She had already gotten used to the spiciness. The appearance of the crayfish meat was like the spring breeze calming the giant waves, and as she dove right in, the spiciness and the tasty crayfish meat, complemented by the various spices, exploded into a suffocating deliciousness. The spicy sauce and thick crayfish meat combined perfectly together, triggering the taste buds, and making her feel as though her soul was about to escape from her body. As she chewed, she could feel the springiness of the meat against her teeth. The spiciness was extremely refreshing. The more she chewed, the tastier it was, and she just could not stop. This is simply too delicious. Angela was screaming inside. Her taste buds were welcoming this suffocating deliciousness without any reservation. It had been too long. This mouthful of crayfish was the epitome of delicacy. It was the taste that she had been longing for. It was the taste that moved her heart. It was the familiar taste that she could not find anywhere on Carapace Island, but she found it miles away at Chaos City. She could be certain that it was no coincidence. No chef in this world could exactly recreate the taste of the spicy crayfish. Such extreme perfectness was not something that any chef could master. She could be certain that the owner of this restaurant had to have some kind of secret connection with the owner of II Crayfish Restaurant. Angela stuck her tongue out as she looked towards the kitchen, and thought, maybe they learned it from the same master? "Miss, can I buy you a pint of beer?" Harrison asked with a smile. He pushed the pint of beer that was just served to him to Angela. Angela retracted her gaze, and looked at the transparent golden liquid with a layer of foam on top. "They even have beer." Angela was stunned once again. Although the glass containing the beer was not the same, this unique alcohol should be the same as the one served in II Crayfish Restaurant. She felt a burning sensation in her mouth right now. It would naturally be perfect to have a pint of refreshing beer to cool her down. Of course, what she was even more curious about was whether the beer in this restaurant was the same as the one at II Crayfish Restaurant. "Thank you." Angela glanced at Harrison. After she confirmed that he had no other motives, she thanked him, and reached for the beer. The faint flowery scent of the beer wafted over. She tilted her head up and took a sip. The cold and refreshing beer entered her mouth and slid down her throat. Psst. Angela seemed to have heard the beautiful sizzling sound of fire being put out. The flaming spiciness was instantly suppressed, and that refreshingness went straight to her soul, which made her unconsciously let out a moan. NGH. Chapter 1617. I'm good at seducing people. But today, not only did she have spicy crayfish with the exact same taste, she even had beer with the exact same taste. In this restaurant miles away from Carapace Island, she found the taste that she had been searching tirelessly for all this while. Harrison felt that his eyes were going to be blinded by the holy light, so he retracted his gaze. It was said that succubi were seductive temptresses. He had finally seen one for himself. Even though he didn't see anything, he still felt his heart skip a beat. Angela put the pint of beer down and licked her lips. She looked towards the kitchen, at Mag, and squinted a little. She resolutely thought to herself, no matter what relationship this fellow has with Hades, I have to pull them all out. But how can I sound him out? This guy is completely immune to my eyes of enchantment. It's obviously impossible to enchant him like how I can for normal men. Angela was deep in thought. Her head hurt when she recalled how that guy ignored her in the morning. Someone like him was too hard to handle. "Thanks for the beer," Angela said with a smile to Harrison, who was looking down and slicing his piece of steak seriously. She retracted her gaze, and buttoned her shirt up again. "Why, you're welcome," Harrison said in surprise as he shook his head. He laughed embarrassedly. It seemed like he made the right choice to offer her the beer. It actually successfully made this Miss Succubus initiate a conversation with him. "Then is this restaurant still hiring?" "I would like to get a job," Angela asked. "I don't think Mamie Restaurant needs any more employees. After all these ladies here can each do the work of 2 people and control such a huge restaurant very well." Harrison shook his head and looked at Angela complicatedly. He could not help but sympathetically say, "If you would like to find a job, I happen to be looking for a secretary. The workload is light, and the salary is quite high. I wonder if that's all right." "I only want to work in this restaurant," Angela rejected his kind offer before Harrison could even finish. I've fallen apart." Harrison's lips moved. He felt as though he had suffered a mighty blow once again. That was true. The number of people who would like to work in Mamie Restaurant was the same as the number of young ladies in Chaos City who would like to marry Boss Mag. After all, most young ladies would take it as the express route to becoming the lady boss of Mamie Restaurant. Of course, even if they couldn't end up as Mamie Restaurant's lady boss, it was still very blissful to be able to become Mamie Restaurant's employee. They could enjoy all the delicacies of the restaurant without having to line up, and he heard that they could even have tofu pudding for every meal. That was simply the dream of millions of young ladies. Angela continued having her crayfish. She was indeed thinking of finding a job and a place to settle down in Chaos City temporarily. The money that she had with her previously was already running out because she had to arrange for her sisters to settle down. Now, she was only left with less than 500 copper coins in her pocket. Of course, with her talent and looks, it was not difficult at all to earn money. However, she did not want to earn money by selling her looks and pleasing men. That'd be an insult to her. If she could work in this restaurant, she could investigate the relationship between this boss and Boss Hades. At the same time, she could also earn some living expenses through work, so it was really a good choice to make. After lunch, Angela paid and left. However, she did not go far. Instead, she loitered around the restaurant until the restaurant closed. Ding! Mag undid his apron, and was about to go upstairs to take a small break when he heard the bell ring. He was stunned, and turned to look towards the door. "Hi, I'm Angela," Angela said with a smile as soon as Mag opened the door. "Hi, is anything the matter?" Mag asked with a smile. He was slightly shocked, but did not show it. Angela could not see any difference in Mag's expression. Smiling, she replied, "I would like to find a job, so I wanted to ask if your restaurant is still hiring service staff." "Service staff?" Mag sized Angela up discreetly. He thought for a while before saying, "We are indeed looking to hire a new staff member." Angela's eyes lit up. Surprised, she said, "In that case, can I have a go at it? According to our rules, I need to do a simple aptitude test for you, and see if you're really up for the role," Mag said calmly, but the corners of his lips were upturned. He was still thinking of how he could get in touch with Angela, but she actually came looking for him instead. "All right." Angela nodded. Although what he said sounded pretty familiar, she was still very confident in herself. She was a rare talent of the succubus tribe, and the only one who managed to reach the 7th tier before the age of 20 in a century. The mere role of a service staff member was no threat to her. "Please come in." Mag turned to the side to let Angela in. Angela walked in, and when she passed by Mag, she could smell a faint minty scent that was very light yet very refreshing. Click! Mag closed the door behind him and locked it. Angela raised her brow when she heard the sound. However, she relaxed very quickly. As an 8th-tier succubus, even if she was locked in a room with a stranger, she would definitely not be the one to be disadvantaged. Besides, he's pretty fine. "Take a seat." Mag motioned for Angela to sit as he went into the kitchen to get her a glass of warm water before sitting down in front of her. "Thank you." Angela looked at the glass of water, and was not in a hurry to drink. The work here at Mamie Restaurant is rather hectic. There are around 1,500 customers every day, but there are very few service staff members. "Are you sure you're able to handle such a demanding job?" Mag said straightforwardly. "Yes." Angela nodded. "In that case, what are your strengths?" Mag continued to ask. "Strengths?" "Yes. Every employee at Mamie Restaurant has their strengths. That way, I can assign you jobs based on your capabilities, and that would make work more efficient." Mag nodded. Angela thought very carefully. Suddenly, her eyes lit up, and she told Mag, "I'm good at seducing people." "Nothing. It's just that this ability might not be very useful in the restaurant." Mag shook his head. "How could that be?" "I just have to stand at the door, and I believe that your customers would double," Angela said confidently. "The problem now is, even if we had half of our customer volume, the restaurant would still be filled." Mag shook his head with a smile. Such a beautiful and attractive Miss Succubus was indeed the dream hostess for many restaurants. All she needed to do was to use a little of her enchantment, and customers would start lining up at the door. However, Mamie Restaurant was way past the phase where they would need to attract customers. There were already countless customers who couldn't make it into the line every day. In that case, Angela was a little defeated. She didn't think that her charm that she took pride in would become something completely useless. She pondered seriously, and said, "Then I can serve the customers. You seem to be lacking service staff. You need more speed in serving the dishes." "Yes. You've got a very keen observation. We are indeed lacking a service staff member for the designated hot pot area." Mag nodded. After Shirley's disappearance, the restaurant had not hired another suitable staff member, so Babla was the only one using her spatial magic to make up for the manpower shortage. The problem with serving dishes this way was the lack of personal touch. "Then can I do it?" Angela's eyes lit up again. "I will need you to show me that you can handle this job," Mag told Angela as he leaned into his chair. "All right." Angela looked at Mag. Her turquoise eyes suddenly flickered, and 3 completely identical Angelas appeared behind her. All of them looked at Mag and bowed slightly as they said, "Good afternoon, boss." "Cloning!" Mag exclaimed as he looked at the 3 Angelas who were completely the same as the real Angela, and then at the Angela sitting in front of him. Angela was very satisfied with Mag's expression, and she a little proudly said, "That's right. These are my clones. They are half real, and can take on the job of serving dishes. Hiring me will be equivalent to hiring 4 workers. I can be in charge of serving at the designated hot pot area alone." "The man who marries you is the real lucky one," Mag muttered inside. He was indeed shocked by the skill that Angela suddenly displayed, and smilingly said, "I believe that you're capable enough to take on this role." "Thank you." Angela smiled. Indeed, there was nothing that she couldn't settle so long as she displayed her abilities. Mag stood up and reached his hand out towards Angela with a smile as he said, "I am Mag. You can call me boss like the other employees. Welcome to Mamie Restaurant, Angela." "Thank you." Angela stood up as well and held Mag's hand. She felt something miraculous as she listened to Mag's declaration. "It's currently lunch break right now, so the employees aren't in the restaurant. I'll introduce you to them later at night." Mag sat back down, and told Angela, "We can have a further discussion on the salary and benefits. Signing a labor contract would also be a form of protection for both of us." "Labor contract?" Angela looked at Mag with bewilderment. "It's an agreement. This is a special rule in Chaos City in order to protect the workers," Mag said with a smile. "Oh." Although Angela felt that it was strange, she thought that while in Rome, do as the Romans do. She didn't put much thought into it. "The employees of our restaurant have to go through a 1-month probation, and the salary during probation will be 3,000 copper coins per month. However, because of your unique ability, your salary during probation will be 6,000 copper coins. After the 1-month probation, I will assess your working capabilities. If you manage to convert to permanent staff, your salary will be increased to 10,000 copper coins a month. 10,000 copper coins, that's enough for 10 spicy crayfishes," Angela frowned. She thought that this salary was a little beyond her expectations. "The 3 meals for employees will be provided daily, and you can choose anything on our menu. We've currently adjusted our meal limit, so you can eat anything you want, however much you want," Mag explained with a smile. "So I can have a crayfish for every meal?" Angela's eyes lit up. "You can if you don't get tired of it." Mag nodded. "That sounds pretty good." Angela was already looking forward to signing the contract. The corner of Mag's lips turned up. Indeed, no one would be able to resist the temptation of delicacies. He continued, "Do you have a place to stay in Chaos City? If you don't, the restaurant can provide you with lodging at the employees' dormitory. You will be living with the other staff, and it's also closer to the restaurant, so it's more convenient for you to come to work." "I've just arrived at Chaos City, and have no place to stay." Angela shook her head honestly. "It would be best if lodging could be provided." It was too troublesome for her otherwise, since she didn't want to go around looking for a place to stay. All right. Then you can go back with the other staff when we close for the night. Mag nodded. He got Angela to wait for a while as he went upstairs to draft a labor contract. He used an agreement paper, which had a binding effect. Take a look at this labor contract. If you don't have any questions, you can sign at the back and put down your fingerprint. Mag pushed the labor agreement towards Angela, and reminded her, most importantly, check the salary and benefits I've promised you. Salary, benefits. Angela picked up the agreement and read it seriously. The salary and benefits were as per what Mag had mentioned previously. There were also a lot of restrictions on his side. If he did not fulfill the agreement, not only would he have to compensate her 10 times her salary, he would even have to be jailed. Such an employer with a conscience was new to Angela. But, what does this non-disclosure agreement mean? I am not allowed to tell other people anything about the restaurant? Angela asked as she pointed to one of the rules under Employees' Rules. It read, employee should not discuss anything about the restaurant or the employer's private life, and should not reveal to any third party anything that the employer did not consent to. Well, it's a restaurant, so there are still some things that cannot be disclosed. Otherwise, the whole street would be making spicy crayfish within a few days. Mag looked at Angela with a smile, and said, you're not here to steal the recipe, right? I'm not interested in cooking. Angela shook her head. She signed her name at the bottom of the agreement, and cut her thumb to press her thumbprint beside her signature. The agreement gave off a golden glow and split in two, each impressing itself on Mag's and Angela's forehead. Very well, the contract signing was very successful. Mag smiled as he kept the agreement. Boss, have you been to the Demon Islands? Angela asked Mag emotionlessly as she licked her finger. I've been to Carapace Island. Mag nodded in an equally nonchalant way. Chapter 1619. Could this be the feeling of meeting the same kind? Ca Carapace Island. Angela tried to control her emotions as she continued probing. When was that? I don't remember. I don't have a very good memory. Mag shook his head slightly. Since he already had the agreement, and it was already signed, he was now in control. Even if Angela knew something, she would be bound by the agreement, and couldn't say anything. What did you do at Carapace Island? I heard that it's a very chaotic little island, and there's nothing special about it, Angela asked, pretending to be curious. That, Mag looked at Angela with a smile, and said, is a secret. This fellow. Angela looked at Mag's evil smile, and was so annoyed she wanted to throw a chair in his face. Just when she thought the answer was coming out, he stopped right there. I've stayed on Carapace Island for a while, and there was a very famous crayfish restaurant there. The owner is called Hades, and the crayfish and beer I had there were the same as the ones in Mamie restaurant. May I ask if you know him? Angela asked bluntly since she was too lazy to beat about the bush. Hades? He's my disciple. Mag nodded. Disciple? Yes. Back then, there was a young lobster monster who came far away from across the oceans to ask me to. I mean to learn from me. He looked very sincere, so I took him in as my disciple, and taught him 3 ways to make crayfish and how to brew beer. However, he started showing off his culinary skills everywhere after that, and he went from bad to worse, so I chased him away and cut all ties with him, even making him promise not to say that he was my disciple. So many years have passed in the blink of an eye, Mag lamented. But why do I think that he seemed older than you? Angela asked Mag doubtfully. If culinary skills were directly proportional to age, then wouldn't everyone in the dragon tribe be master chefs? Mag asked. No, what I mean to say is, he was young. He grew very quickly and aged a lot. Mag let out a dry cough. Angela looked at Mag in apparent disbelief. She felt that something was off somewhere, but she just couldn't put her finger on it. Speaking of him, I've not had news of him for years. I wonder where he is now? Is he still selling crayfish? Mag asked, appearing to be a benevolent master who was very concerned about his disciple. I was about to ask you. Angela rolled her eyes, and said with a shake of her head, his restaurant on Carapace Island was overthrown, and no one knew where he went. Sigh, it seems like we wouldn't have a chance to meet again. Mag sighed again, and appeared rather upset. Could he really be Hades's master? Angela looked at the melancholic expression on Mag's face, and started to accept this rather strange setup. She even felt that she shouldn't have mentioned the past, which made Mag a little depressed. With a shrug, she said, I'm sorry. I think I shouldn't have brought him up. It's all right. If you hadn't brought him up, I would have forgotten I still had a disciple. It's all matters in the past, anyway. I will always have disciples in the future. Mag regained his bright smile, and waved his hand nonchalantly. Hey! Angela widened her eyes. She didn't know how to react. So, do you have any plans after coming to Chaos City? Do you have any expectations for this job? Mag asked Angela as he changed the topic. When she suddenly left Carapace Island, she brought all the succubi along with her. Could she be planning to do the same at Chaos City? I find Chaos City rather interesting and special, so I plan to stay here for a while. Angela nodded. She thought for a while, and said, as for work, I will stay for at least a year. That's great. Mag nodded. He did not want to hire a one-day employee again. After receiving Angela's promise, he stood up, and said, You can do whatever you want. I'll go take an afternoon nap. That's it. Angela stood up in a daze. You're a successful interviewee who met me, who needed help, so things naturally became simple, Mag said with a smile before turning around to go upstairs. Something seemed not quite right, but then it didn't seem like there was anything wrong. Angela sat back down and took a sip from the glass of warm water to calm herself down. From today onwards, she was employed. Before entering his bedroom, Mag went to check on Hannah, who was still drawing very seriously in the study. Her greasy and messy hair was put up into a messy bun with a pencil, and she was wearing a pair of slippers. She was thinking very deeply as the pencil in her mouth became deformed from her biting. Mag suddenly felt guilty for turning a top-tier brewer into a full-time artist. She was supposed to be in her most beautiful youth. Why must she learn drawing? Hannah, who heard the sound, looked up and saw Mag standing at the door. Her eyes lit up as she said, Boss, come over for a while. Could you help me take a look if there are any problems with this drawing? Mag walked over and solved Hannah's problem effortlessly while also pointing out some obvious mistakes she made in the design. After that, he walked away suavely, leaving behind Hannah watching him with awe and admiration. That's great. Boss has solved a problem that I could not figure out for 2 days. Now, I just need to finish up, and we can begin making the machine. Hannah picked up the thermal flask beside her, and took a sip of wolfberry tea. She felt the warmth flow throughout her body, driving her passion to get back to work once again. Mia and the rest started arriving at the restaurant. When they saw Angela sitting inside, they were all very shocked. Let me introduce you to everyone. This is Angela, the restaurant's new staff member, Mag introduced as he stood up. Hello, everyone, I am Angela. I am starting work at the restaurant. Please take care of me, Angela greeted with a smile. She swept a glance over all the ladies there, and her eyes grew brighter. Oh my gosh, what kind of restaurant is this? All the staff here are so beautiful. She didn't even notice that, because she was so caught up with the crayfish. Why is this seductive succubus exuding such a familiar aura? Could she also be? Camilla looked at Angela and squinted. She felt that something was unusual. She Angela's gaze fell on Camilla, and she also had some doubts. That lady appeared to be a vampire. She was beautiful and elegant, but the aura that she exuded was different from the other ladies. Could this be the feeling of meeting the same kind? Chapter 1620 Struck by a disease called poverty. She's so beautiful. Angela looked at Irina, who suddenly appeared, and was taken aback. She seemed to have an overlapping image with the lady boss, whom she could not forget, at Carapace Island. This fellow's motive is not simple. Mag looked at Angela, who was completely stunned, and pressed his lips together. She actually had set her eyes on his wife. That was intolerable. Do I look good? Irina asked with a smile when she saw Angela dumbstruck. Yes. Angela nodded. She immediately regained her senses and blushed. Irina looked at Angela with a smile. I am Irina, Mamie Restaurant's special guest, and also the only customer who doesn't have to line up for food. Irina? Irina. Angela stared wide-eyed in disbelief at Irina. Isn't this the legendary elf princess? Although she had been staying on a small island, Angela had still heard stories of Irina. She didn't expect that she would meet her here. Father, I'm back. The sound of knocking on the door and Amy's voice came from the entrance. Mia went over to open the door. Ugly Duckling, who was lying on the counter, sleeping, stood up, slid down the side of the counter, and ran towards the door, jumping into Amy's embrace as it rubbed its head against Amy's chin. Ugly Duckling, did you eat something secretly again? Why do you feel heavier? Amy asked with disdain as she pinched Ugly Duckling's fat cheeks. Meow. Ugly Duckling looked at Amy with sad eyes, and stuck out its tongue to prove that it didn't. Amy's gaze landed on Angela, and she said in surprise, isn't this big sister Angela? Angela looked at Amy. It's that cute little half-elf girl again. But how did she know her name? Yes. She'll be part of the staff in our restaurant from today onwards, Mag continued with a smile. Little Amy, introduce yourself. Hello, I'm Amy, and you can call me Little Amy, Amy said with a bright smile. Hi, Little Amy. Angela was a little confused by the father and daughter, but she still greeted the girl with a nod of her head. Our dinner operating hours will be longer, and at the same time, we have to open up the designated hot pot area, so we will be very busy. There's a lot of preparatory work to do before we start opening up. However, you won't have to deal with the more specific jobs today. You just have to sit at the side to familiarize yourself with the flow of work, Mag told Angela. Angela nodded. Although she felt that she could easily get used to this kind of easy work, she did not go against Mag. It was her first day of work, so she had to be more well-behaved. After the brief introduction, everyone went to start their busy preparatory work. Mag called Amy over to the side, and told her to keep everything related to a secret before going off to get busy. Angela did not have anything to do, so she watched Amy, who was squatting by a pillar, and lecturing a cat. She walked over with a smile, and asked, Little Amy, what are you doing? I'm teaching Ugly Duckling how to climb trees. It's too fat. It needs to climb trees to lose some weight, Amy said seriously. She pointed to the dried fish hanging on the pillar, and told Ugly Duckling, Ugly Duckling. If you can climb up there, this dried fish will be yours. Meow. Ugly Duckling looked at that dried fish and licked its mouth. It leaped up and climbed up the pillar. However, after climbing up half a meter, it started sliding down the pillar. Go on, Amy said coldly as she stood by the side with her arms folded. Meow. Ugly Duckling let out a meow, and grabbed the pillar once again, making its way up. This time, it went up another half a meter before it slid down the pillar limply. It was still a big distance away from the dried fish that was hung more than 2 meters high. Meow, meow. Ugly Duckling turned its head to look at Amy, and let out 2 pitiful meows. Go on. Amy was not moved. Angela stood at the side as she watched that plump cat jump up on the pillar time after time and try its best to climb up, working hard to get closer to that fragrant roasted dried fish. However, no matter how hard it tried, the closest it ever got to the dried fish was half a meter away. Meow! Ugly Duckling slid down the pillar once again, and lay limply on the ground, facing up to reveal its big tummy with a resigned look on its face. Who am I? What am I doing here? Amy took the dried fish down from the pillar, and threw it into her mouth. It was crispy and crunchy. She turned to look at Ugly Duckling, and nodded as she said, "Hum. You've made a little improvement today. Let's carry on again tomorrow." Ugly Duckling stared at that scene, and with a tilt of its head, it fainted. "All right. Don't play dead anymore. I'll prepare a fully vegetarian set meal for you later." Amy tapped Ugly Duckling's tummy with her toes. Meow! Ugly Duckling flipped around and ignored Amy. It was not happy. "If that's the case, then you're not eating tonight," Amy said with a shrug. Meow, meow, meow! Ugly Duckling immediately clambered up and hugged Amy's calf to please her. When she saw this scene, Angela smiled like a mother. What a cute little fellow! She was about to melt from all the cuteness. "Big sister Angela, do you have anything for me?" Amy picked Ugly Duckling up and looked at Angela. "Nope. I'm just bored." Angela shook her head, and then curiously asked, "But, how does little Amy know my name? We haven't met before this noon, right?" Amy tilted her head and thought for a while before saying, "Perhaps, we've met once upon a dream. I thought of your name the moment I saw you." Angela was stunned. Although she found that reason a little forced, it seemed rather convincing coming from Amy. A cute little girl like her was always right. "What about big sister Angela? Why do you want to work in the restaurant?" Amy asked curiously. Angela's expression changed. At first, it was to understand the relationship between Mamie Restaurant and II Crayfish Restaurant. However, she didn't expect herself to find out immediately after getting the job. Right now, she sighed and said, "It's because I was struck by a disease called poverty." "It's all right. It's usually not easy to treat a disease like this," Amy comforted. Vanessa pulled Sean along as they stood at the end of the line. She tiptoed to look ahead, and after making sure they would be able to get into the restaurant at their spot in the line, she said, "All right. We've finally gotten into the line. Now we just have to wait for the restaurant door to open." Chapter 1621 You're the one who said that. Humph. You're forcefully pulling someone new into the sweet gang. The savory gang is the way to go. Abraham snorted at the side. That's not true. The correct way to explore tofu pudding is via the sweet way. The savory gang is blasphemy. Vanessa said righteously. Sweet gang? Savory gang? Sean was confused. Why are there even gangs when it comes to a meal? Oh, I forgot to explain it to you. This sweet and savory gang separation started from a bowl of tofu pudding. Tofu pudding with sugar syrup forms the sweet gang, while tofu pudding with pickled vegetables and sauce would form the savory gang. I think you would definitely like it sweet, right? Vanessa looked at Sean with blinking eyes, as though she was saying, just nod your head. Then I'll have it sweet. Sean nodded with a smile. He looked at his younger sister who seemed like a completely different person now. She did not used to have any patience, and did not seem to care about anything before. That's cheating. Abraham sighed. However, he was also smiling brightly when he saw Vanessa's proud little expression. Brother, how did your meeting today go? Vanessa asked Sean curiously. She pulled him into the line quickly as soon as she saw him at the entrance of the restaurant. It was all right. We're almost done, and we'll be going back tomorrow. Sean nodded with a smile. Does that mean, you have to bring me along? Vanessa's face fell immediately. Yes. You've left home for so long. It is time for you to go home. Sean nodded without seeming like there was any room for discussion. But, I've been tasked with coming over here. If I don't bring you back with me, his father would be unhappy, Sean told Vanessa as he looked into her eyes. Vanessa looked at Sean. It was no longer a secret that her first brother and second brother were vying for the throne, and the decision lay in their royal father's hands. If Sean did not get into their royal father's good books because of her, she would feel bad. After some hesitation, she snorted softly. Brother Sean is a baddie. Humph. Seeing that Vanessa did not refuse, Sean's gaze became gentler. He reached out to stroke her head, and said, when we're back at Rodu, I'll bring you around for nice food. All the delicacies in the world are in this restaurant, yet I have to look for them far away from here. What a tragedy! Vanessa sighed melancholily. Miss Vanessa, are you leaving? Randy, who was lining up not far away, asked. I have to go home. Vanessa nodded helplessly at Randy. Sean turned to look at Randy, and sized him up with his sharp gaze. He squinted slowly and started exuding the aura of an experienced soldier. Randy felt a little uncomfortable from Sean's stare. This man was like a long and sharp staff. He had similar features as Vanessa, so he should be her older brother. Randy smiled at him, and then looked at Vanessa as he regretfully said, in that case, I will have lost a fellow mate who can enjoy the insanely spicy hot pot with me. It's all right, young friend Randy. We can have the clear soup hot pot together. Abraham smiled at Randy. The clear soup is great and healthy. Forget it. The clear soup is so boring. Randy shook his head with disinterest, but his eyes lit up quickly as he said, I heard those in front say that Boss Mag is going to launch a new dish today. Really? Vanessa, who was still rather upset, suddenly became alert. She looked at Randy with a glow in her eyes, and asked, didn't he just launch a new dish a few days ago? I didn't know Boss Mag is already so highly productive. Any dish in Mamie restaurant is good enough to become the signature dish at other restaurants, but he's launching new dishes at a horrifying speed of one every 3 to 5 days. This fellow is a demon in human form. Randy nodded in agreement. As someone who had roamed the continent and a man with absolute sensitivity to delicacies, the main reason he stopped at Chaos City was because of Mamie restaurant. To be honest, the rate at which he found good food was even slower than the rate at which Boss Mag came up with new dishes. Look, did this seem like something an ordinary person was capable of? What's the new dish? Vanessa asked. If she would be going home tomorrow, being able to try Boss Mag's new dish today would not be a bad way to send her off. It's rather shocking. Are you sure you want to know? Randy said in a strange way. Of course. And I'm going to order it. How can I miss Boss Mag's new dish? Vanessa nodded with certainty. The people around in the line all pricked their ears and listened carefully since they didn't have the time to look at the little blackboard. They were all curious to find out what the new dish Boss Mag was going to launch today that it could be called shocking. Randy cleared his throat, and began, the new shocking dish that Boss Mag is going to launch today is the roasted pig's eyes. It was silent all of a sudden, and a commotion erupted following the silence. Roasted, pig's eyes. Vanessa's eyes widened. All of a sudden, an image of eyeballs stacked up on a grill surfaced in her mind. She felt her stomach feel queasy all of a sudden. The other customers around had almost the same reaction. Just the name of the dish alone made them feel sick. Roasted pig's eyes. Sean frowned. The name of the dish alone was weird. He didn't think that someone would use pig's eyes as the sole ingredient in a dish. Boss Mag has finally started walking on the dark side. Not bad. I like it, Abraham said with a smile, and even seemed to be looking forward to it. Roasted pig's eyes. Vanessa looked at Sean. A hint of slyness flashed past her eyes. She immediately put on an unhappy face, and said to Sean, Brother. I'm going back tomorrow. Would you agree to all the requests I have today? Sean looked at Vanessa, and said with a nod and a smile, If it's within my means. Great. You're the one who said that. No going back on your words, Vanessa said with a smile as her eyes lit up. Chapter 1622 Roasting the Windows to the Pig's Soul. Of course, most people were interested in who would order this dish. Whoever dared to be the first brave soul would definitely be the center of attention. Father, why aren't we having roasted pig's eyes for dinner? Amy asked with bewilderment as she looked at the table full of food. Because we're the only ones who want to eat it. If I put it on the table, it might affect the others' appetite. So I'll make one for you after we start our business, all right? Mag said with a smile. Amy was probably the only one who would unconditionally believe that whatever he made was delicious and be interested in it. All right. Amy nodded happily. She stuck out 2 fingers, and said, I want 2. All right. 2. Mag nodded with a smile, and put some red braised pork in her bowl. Thank you. Amy took a bite off the meat and chewed happily. After that, she ate a big mouthful of rice, making her cheeks puff out adorably. What a scene of a loving father and daughter. Angela watched enviously as she ate. Come to think of it, she had not eaten at the same table with so many people she knew in a very long time. It was a very strange feeling. After that, her gaze landed on Irina. She was eating the fried rice in small bites. It was as though there was a soft golden glow around her, making her elegant and beautiful, and making it impossible for one to look away from her. Yes? Irina asked with a smile as she looked up and into Angela's eyes. And nothing. Angela's face flushed. She lowered her head and quickly ate some rice. Even her ears had turned red. I heard the customers conversing outside. It seemed that they were a little afraid of pig's eyes. I wonder if anyone would order it. Mia was a little worried. Although she had unconditional trust in Meg, roasted pig's eyes were really a little too gory for her. She wondered how many customers would dare to order and try it after seeing the dish's name. Why don't you give it a better name? Irina put her spoon down, and suggested to Meg, for example, Bloody Eyes or Devil's Gaze. Are those names any better? Mag rolled his eyes. What kind of dish naming appreciation was that? Exploding eyeballs. Amy suggested as she raised her hands. Mag pondered. Roasted windows to the pig's soul, Anna suggested. That's a gentle name. Mag gave Anna a thumbs up. The first meal together with Angela ended in a warm atmosphere. Welcome to Mamie Restaurant. Mag opened the door, and welcomed the customers with a smile. Angela stood in a corner, and watched the customers enter the restaurant. Although she had been a very part-time service staff member on Carapace Island for 2 days, she was still rather nervous and excited while standing here. This new job might not be a goal in her life, but it marked a good start at Chaos City. You don't have to do anything today. Just get to know the restaurant's operation from the employee's point of view, Mag said with a smile to Angela as he passed by on his way to the kitchen. Angela nodded. She turned around, and went to stand behind the counter. Big sister Angela, don't be nervous. You'll be even more nervous when you have to do it on your own, Amy said with a smile with her head propped up on Ugly Duckling's head. Angela nodded. She found it hard to accept such encouragement. Let's sit here. Vanessa sat at the last table close to the kitchen. From the seat, they could see what was going on in the kitchen through the glass window. Aren't there any private rooms? Sean looked around. There was only this hall in the restaurant. Although there were wooden fences around to roughly separate the tables, they couldn't block off all sights and sounds. He felt a little uncomfortable dining with a group of completely unknown people including orcs and demons. There's no need for private rooms in Mamie Restaurant. Everyone even shares the tables. Vanessa shook her head with a smile. She picked up the menu on the table quickly, and flipped it open. Indeed, under the kebab, there was a new dish, roasted pig's eyes 300 copper coins/skewer. What a pity that there wasn't a picture of the roasted pig's eyes. However, that might be a good thing too. If she had seen pig's eyes staring back at her the moment she opened the menu, she would probably have lost all her appetite. This new dish is something to look forward to. I wonder which brave soul would step forward to give it a try, Abraham said with a smile expectantly. I think that the brave soul is right in front of you. Vanessa flipped the menu around and pushed it to Sean, who was sitting right in front of her. With a grin, she said, "Brother Sean, I'll order a set of roasted pig's eyes for you. You'll have to try something different now that you're in Chaos City." I'm not keen to try that, Sean said with a strange expression. Even he was unable to accept roasted pig's eyes despite being able to hit the pig's eyes with a bow and arrow. That won't do. You just promised that you would listen to my requests today. Vanessa shook her head with a pout. She reached her fair fingers out, and pointed at the roasted pig's eyes on the menu as she said, "My request is very simple. It's for you to have a skewer of roasted pig's eyes." Sean opened his mouth. He felt as though he had fallen into this little kitten's trap. To think she would actually use such a method to take revenge on him. "I heard him. I can vouch for you." Abraham raised his hand as he watched the show. Sean looked at the expectant Vanessa and the smiling Abraham, and nodded helplessly as he said, "All right. Hee. I knew it, my brother Sean is the best," Vanessa exclaimed with joy. The other customers ordered their food subsequently. However, they seemed to have reached a consensus to avoid the roasted pig's eyes. They were all waiting for that one brave soul to be the first one to give it a try. Therefore, when Yabimiya came to Vanessa's table, there were still no orders for roasted pig's eyes. "May I have your order?" Yabimiya asked with a smile. "Big Sister Mia, we would like to have a set of roasted pig's eyes," Vanessa said quickly. "Roasted pig's eyes?" Yabimiya looked at Vanessa in shock. The other customers also looked over curiously to see which brave soul ordered the roasted pig's eyes and took the major step out of the culinary world. He's here. The most important mission his royal father had for him here at Chaos City was to bring Vanessa home. If he could not complete it, no matter how well he did as the representative, he would have still failed the mission. "All right. Please hold on for a while." Mia nodded, took their other orders, and went back to the kitchen. "It's that insanely spicy lady. The brave soul who dares to challenge insanely spicy is indeed different." Everyone started glancing at Vanessa. During this period, Vanessa, Abraham, and some others had been very active in the designated hot pot area, and they had gained a little fame among the customers for only ordering the insanely spicy level. After all, the insanely spicy level was not just a test of one's mouth and stomach. No ordinary person could accept the insanely spicy, much less double or triple the spiciness. However, she would actually be the first to order this roasted pig's eyes, which everyone was a little afraid and wary of. "Uncle, aren't you interested in this new dish? Why don't you order one to give it a try?" Vanessa said in a strange tone as she looked at Abraham. "Don't be anxious. You've already ordered it anyway. Let Sean be the lab rat," Abraham said with a chuckle. "Sean? That's not a bad idea." Vanessa nodded with a sly smile. "I'll let you have a taste of something with a lasting impression since you keep rushing me to go home. Boss, Miss Vance's table has ordered a set of roasted pig's eyes." Other than them, no one else ordered it, Mia reported to Mag the moment she entered the kitchen. That's great. At least someone ordered it, am I right?" Mag said with a smile. He looked up at Vanessa's table through the kitchen window, and his gaze fell on Sean for a while. The corner of his lips rose, and he very quickly looked away as he continued to cook. "That's true." Mia nodded. 10 plates of Yangzhou fried rice. Mag used a huge scoop to scoop up a plate of rice per scoop, and filled the plates laid on the table instantly as he motioned for Bablat, who was standing at the side, to serve the food. Do we have to wait very long? Sean swept a glance at the restaurant full of people. They were seated at the last table. If the dishes were served in the sequence of the tables, they would probably have to wait for a very long time. No, Boss Mag is very quick, Vanessa said confidently as she glanced into the kitchen. Upon hearing that, Sean looked up and into the kitchen. From his seat, he could see much of the kitchen's interior through the kitchen window. The kitchen took up a huge area and was brightly lit. Although there were many items inside the kitchen, it was not messy at all. A somewhat familiar silhouette was walking to and fro between the different kitchenware, being in complete control of the entire kitchen as dish after dish was served. The most striking equipment was the grill that was almost facing him. The charcoal was already burning, but there was no food on the grill yet. Don't tell me the pig's eyes are going to be cooked here. Sean frowned. A bad feeling rose inside. Before he could look away, Mag had already walked over with a transparent crystal basin, and in the basin were large pig's eyes piled on top of each other. Even he who was used to the bloodiness and goriness of a battlefield could feel his scalp go numb. He's here. He's here. He's here with the pig's eyes. Abraham craned his neck curiously. As a chowhound, one had to have enough curiosity and a sensitive sense of smell towards abnormal food. Waiting for a while to try it was all right, but one still had to give it attention, and never miss any delicacy. Really? Vanessa covered her face with her hands, then slowly turned her face over, and peeked through her fingers. After that, she quickly turned her head away. Her expression changed slightly as she said, "Wah, this is too horrifying. The eyeballs are really huge." Lola, who was sitting beside Vanessa, shuddered. She did not even turn her head back to take a look. "It's just pig's eyes. There's no need for all that reaction," Sean said nonchalantly as he waved his hand after he let out a cough. "Brother Sean is so brave. He actually dares to watch Boss Mag roast the pig's eyes," Vanessa said with admiration. Sean, who was about to look away, froze. He swallowed and had no choice but to appear as though he was not affected by the visuals. He continued watching as the man at the other side of the window reached his hand into the basin to pick up the eyeballs. After that, he skewered them one by one onto a bamboo skewer nimbly a few times to put 5 eyeballs on one skewer. The eyeballs were dug out completely with the roots, so there was still some blood on them. The eyeballs were very fresh, so they appeared to have been just dug out. After they were skewered up, they looked even creepier. It felt as though the eyes were all staring at him, and that made Sean uncomfortable. Mag saw Sean's expression change from the corner of his eyes. The corner of his lips went up. He turned the skewer, and placed it on the grill. After that, he quickly made 2 more skewers, and put them on the grill above a small fire. A qualified roasted pig's eyes had to be grilled over a small fire for 20 minutes. Therefore, it really tested the chef's patience and fire control. At the same time, watching this entire process was also a test of the customer's endurance. After all, such a scene was rather novel. The staring game had begun. Most of the customers who were sitting near the kitchen window could not help but glance curiously, but most of them also quickly looked away because they could not stand the sight. There were also many customers who had extreme preferences, and watched curiously how Mag grilled the horrifying-looking pig's eyes. The pig's eyes were placed on the preheated grill, and the fat under the surface started sizzling with oil. The full and round eyeballs started to change in color. This was a very slow process. If one wanted to have a good look at the changes, they would have to stare at the pig's eyes seriously. To maintain his image as a brave brother and courageous soldier, Sean watched Mag during the entire grilling process in a rather relaxed manner. His pupils dilated slowly as he looked at Mag. This chef, whom Sean had only met once before at the palace banquet, gave off the feeling that he had won hundreds of battles. Sean had only seen such aura on one person before. Back then, he was standing behind that person, and he watched him lead the army through a remarkable victory. It was only after Sean took over that person's position after his disappearance that he realized that the aura did not come with the position. Sean did not expect a mere chef could also exude such an aura. Maybe it was because the eyeballs were too shocking, or maybe it was something else that made Sean form such a perception. What about big sister Angela? Would you like one? Amy turned her head over to ask Angela, who was behind the counter. No thanks. Angela shook her head. The name itself was already horrifying to her, much less tasting it on her own. All right, it seems like I can only enjoy the tastiness on my own, Amy lamented. Is Amy going to eat the roasted pig's eyes too? Vanessa could not help but turn around to ask Amy in shock when she heard the conversation. Yes. Of the 3 skewers father is grilling, 2 of them are mine. Amy nodded. After that, she said, did you order that remaining skewer? Yes. But I'm not the one eating it. My brother will be eating it. Vanessa nodded with a smile. She looked at Amy with admiration. The little boss is a brave little chowhound indeed. She even dares to try such a terrifying food. What a pity. The roasted pig's eyes father makes must be very delicious, but you're letting someone else have it, Amy said pitifully. This little girl really isn't afraid at all? Sean looked at Amy in shock. He did have some impression of this little fellow. She was Krasu and Urian's treasured disciple, but the 2 great magic casters were not at the restaurant today. Krasu should be liaising with Brent and Elliot at the moment. The triennial magic caster tournament would begin soon, and as an important person who laid the foundations for this event, as well as the fixed guest for the opening ceremonies in the previous years, Krasu would definitely be invited by the Magus Tower to take part. Perhaps he might even see this little fellow again at Rodu. However, she was really too young to join the magic caster tournament officially. After all, the youngest to join had to be at least 10 years old. Is the little boss going to try the roasted pig's eyes? Many customers could not help but look over when they heard what Amy said. As Mamie Restaurant's top spokesperson and also top salesperson, Amy's every test eating would always cause newly launched food to sell well. Her influence was because of how good she could always make the food look when she was eating. Slowly, everyone started spreading the slogan, "Follow the little boss, and you'll not go wrong." Therefore, if Amy was going to try the roasted pig's eyes, everyone would be able to witness this scary-sounding new product. If the little boss is going to try it personally, chances are it would most probably be a delicacy. But whether to try it or not, is still a tough choice to make. Harrison stroked his chin undecidedly. His gaze landed near the counter, and his eyes widened when he saw Angela, who was standing behind the counter. F***ck. Boss Mag is so heartless. This happened just like that. She turned down the high salary of a secretary who doesn't have to do anything, and came willingly to become the cashier here. What kind of world is this? Harrison sniffed. He felt as though life was no longer beautiful, and even the kebab in his hand was not fragrant anymore. Miss Mia. Please get me another glass of vodka, Harrison said as he raised his hand. He paused for a while, and then said, and 10 skewers of roasted pig's eyes. Wah! Everyone around him turned to look. There's the real hero. Could this roasted pig's eyes have a limited supply every day too? George, who was sitting in front of Harrison, was also stunned. Although professionals like them had always trusted Boss Mag a lot, they would always wait for reviews before trying for new products that were contentious. He didn't think that Harrison would take action so quickly this time, and suddenly he even doubted himself. Yabimiya looked at Harrison in shock. She didn't know what had agitated the optimistic fluffy man that made him want 10 skewers of roasted pig's eyes in one go. However, she still nodded very professionally, and said, "All right. Please hang on for a moment. Why harm each other in such haste?" George said sorrowfully to him. Scram! Harrison rolled his eyes. Why, do you have insider news? No, I just felt like eating something with a heavier taste to calm myself down. Harrison shook his head melancholily. Trajay was bewildered. He replied, all right. I'll watch the little boss's reaction before deciding if I want to try this new product. Mag could grill the pig's eyes while cooking at the same time, so there were dishes being served constantly. The pig's eyes on the grill were slathered with layers of sauce, making them brown, and at the same time covering the horrifying appearance of the food to make them look like meatballs. Sean chatted with Vanessa and Abraham. Because he hid his identity, their topics were all rather casual. As Sean talked, he could not help but glance at the roasted pig's eyes from time to time. The pig's eyes on the grill were sizzling, and were coated with a glossy layer of oil, making them look very enticing. He had to admit that if he hadn't witnessed the whole process of the bloody pig's eyes turn into this current state, he probably wouldn't have felt so repulsed. All right. Serve this pig's eyes to the customer. Mag sprinkled some cumin and Sichuan pepper flakes on the roasted pig's eyes and plated them. After that, he told Yabimiya, these two are for Amy. Remember to remind them to leave it to cool for a while. It's very hot. All right. Harrison wants 10 skewers of roasted pig's eyes, Yabimiya told him as she received the plate. All right. Mag nodded. He quickly skewered up 10 skewers of pig's eyes, and placed them on the grill before continuing to cook. Your roasted pig's eyes. Mia placed the plate of roasted pig's eyes in front of Sean. After that, she placed the other plate in front of Amy, who had already seated herself obediently on the high stool by the counter. Thank you, big sister Mia, Amy thanked before reaching for the roasted pig's eyes. Boss told you to eat it in a while. It's hot, Mia reminded her. Oh. Amy retracted her hand that was already reached out, and obediently said, then I'll wait for a while before eating. The counter was slightly taller than the normal tables, and it was at a place where it could be seen at every angle of the hall. Everyone looked at the 2 skewers of roasted pig's eyes on the plate in front of Amy. The brown pig's eyes no longer appeared that scary, and even looked a little like meatballs. However, the thought that these round balls were actually pig's eyes still made it hard for most of them to accept. Sean, who saw how the pig's eyes turned into this skewer of roasted pig's eyes, was just like that. Eat it quickly, brother, it's Uncle's treat today, Vanessa urged Sean expectantly. Abraham. Lola, who was at the side, had already closed her eyes in fear. She was afraid to look at the pig's eyes. Sean looked away helplessly. The roasted pig's eyes in front of him were something horrifying camouflaged by the enticing smell in an attempt to make one let down their guard, and make one believe in it before falling into its horrifying abyss. Eyeballs weren't a ball of meat. They were filled with liquid that could not be dried even if the eyeball was grilled. All it would take was a bite to make the smell not so enticing anymore. Go on, Vanessa encouraged. It's just a skewer of roasted pig's eyes. The battlefield is much bloodier than this. Sean picked up the skewer fearlessly and touched it a little. The surface did not seem so hot anymore. He endured the urge to throw up, and bit on the first eyeball to pull it off the skewer. The spices, together with the fragrance of the roasted meat, started wreaking havoc in his mouth. The moment the pig's eyes entered his mouth, his teeth touched the slightly firm surface. It felt like a layer of membrane, soft and springy, with a rather peculiar texture. However, the thought of it being the surface of a pig's eye made Sean find it weird again. Isn't it just a skewer of pig's eyes? I'll finish it in 2 to 3 mouthfuls. Sean thought to himself, and bit down hard. Pop! A soft sound rang in Sean's head. It was the sound of the eyeball bursting. It was as though a volcano exploded in his mouth. The eyeball exploded in his mouth instantly, making the scalding liquid inside squirt everywhere. The liquid was not like the surface skin, which had already cooled down. It was as though the liquid had absorbed all the heat, and then exploded all at once in his mouth. The sudden heat almost made Sean open his mouth to spit the food out. However, he quickly held himself back because Vanessa was sitting right in front of him. If he were to open his mouth now, the scalding liquid would squirt onto Vanessa's face. They were the prince and princess of the Roth Empire. Therefore, such a scene could not happen. Hence, he closed his mouth tightly and shut his eyes at the same time, clenching his fists tightly as he enjoyed the thrill of the eruption alone. "Is it that good?" Vanessa mumbled under her breath curiously as she watched Sean deeply absorbed with his eyes closed. "It does seem quite good. It's created by Boss Mag, anyway. I would believe it even if he were to turn a pig's tail into a delicacy." Abraham nodded, and got ready to order one for himself too. When Sean heard their conversation, he raised his eyebrows. He felt as though all of his taste buds were murdered. This pig's eye is a devil. He even suspected that the owner was a silent killer who had purposely laid a trap in this pig's eyes to assassinate him. Who would have thought that within this pig's eye was such a horrifying and scalding liquid? Sean shut his eyes and endured this terrifying heat silently. He already felt like killing someone. However, after the initial heat, the liquid started to cool down slowly, and his injured taste buds started to regain sensitivity again. The freshness of the explosion started filling his entire mouth. It was the taste of joy, just like a delicious soup which had been brewed for a long time finally being released. The liquid flowed down his throat and into his stomach slowly, making him feel overjoyed. How could it taste like this? Sean was stunned. The freshness of the taste soothed his injured taste buds, and he felt as though all the pain had been expelled. The sudden contrast caused him to be taken aback. He had to admit that this exploded eyeball did bring a joyful taste and even an element of surprise. After the liquid squirted out, the eyeball became just like a deflated bubble. He tried to chew on it. It had a firm texture, but was still soft and juicy. There were even parts of it where the cartilage was that made it crunchy. The more he chewed on it, the better it smelled, and he did not taste even a hint of foul smell. It was a taste that would leave one asking for more. So this is pig's eyes. Different parts of it have different textures and tastes. How peculiar. Sean closed his eyes as he savored the taste of this roasted pig's eyes carefully. This time, his expression was different from before. There was a hint of happiness and some curiosity. What wonderful food! "Leaves one asking or more," Sean exclaimed as he opened his eyes, and looked at the 4 remaining pig's eyes. "What a good review! Brother, are this pig's eyes really that delicious?" Vanessa looked at Sean in shock. Initially, she wanted to prank Sean with Boss Mag's new dish, but it didn't seem to be the result she was expecting. Instead, she let him become the first person to taste the deliciousness of the new dish. "To hear such a review from you, I guess this roasted pig's eyes is indeed worth a try." Abraham seemed to be in deep thought. He was already ready to order the food. The customers at the surrounding tables also witnessed this scene. The initial experience of the pig's eye seemed quite good. That made many of those who were frightened by the pig's eye waver and consider trying it. The only downside is that you can't be too quick to bite on it. Other than that, this roasted pig's eye is really a pleasant surprise. Of course, the process of biting into the eyeball is equally surprising, Sean said with a nod. He looked at the 4 remaining pig's eyes in his hand, and hesitated for a while. He was not in a hurry to go for the second one immediately. Around 3 minutes later, Amy, who was sitting at the counter, could no longer withstand the temptation of the roasted pig's eyes. She opened her mouth, and bit on the pig's eyes. The rubbery eyeball darted around mischievously in her mouth, but was very quickly forced to the edge of her teeth. She used her sharp and small teeth to make a cut in the thin surface of the eyeball, and the warm liquid inside erupted in her mouth. Ow! Amy's eyes lit up. The fresh taste bloomed in her mouth, and she could not help but also bloom with happiness. The liquid slowly flowed down her throat. After that, she started chewing on the remnants of the eyeball. The surface was slightly burnt, but the interior was soft and juicy. There were even crunchy bits within the layer which made crunching sounds when she chewed. It was a very interesting experience. Amy swayed from left to right as she chewed on the eyeball, looking very absorbed and focused. She was obviously immersed in the deliciousness of the roasted pig's eye. After a long while, she swallowed the pig's eye, and quickly went for the second one. The customers nearby could hear the sound that was made when she bit into the eyeball. It was a scalp-numbing sound, but it was also like an igniter that made Amy fall right into happiness as she chewed. I feel that the little boss is trying to tempt me. I can't do it anymore. I actually don't feel any sense of guilt watching the little boss eat roasted pig's eyes, as such good looks are illegal.